Welcome, new and old friends. My name is 242, and today, to decide we should do a compilation. We're going to do the first 10 of the Glitch in the Matrix stories. So, turn off your lights, make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky. My goddamn phone number changed. By Anon777. Okay, so I'm a long-time lurker, never had anything happen to me before, so never posted anything. Until today. This happened last week, and I've been struggling to understand what the hell happened. I think I'm going nuts. So, I was looking at my prescription, and I see the pharmacy has the wrong number for me. I call them and tell them they have the wrong number. They advise me that my number has not been changed on their system in 5+ years, and their color display system identifies that I'm calling from the what I thought was wrong number. I'm an engineer. I understand computers can be screwy, data corruption, etc. So I just brush it off as that. So I call my doctor to see if they had changed my number. Nope. They too have the wrong number for me. Still, I'm thinking just something screwy with their systems. So next, I had to order some parts for my car, and the call handler on the other end of the line asked if they could call me back on, quote, apparently wrong number. Okay, now I'm getting a bit confused. So I called my mobile supplier and they said I've never had that number that I thought I had, and my number has always been wrong number. Okay, so now I'm getting worried I've got something wrong in my brain, so I decided to ring the number I thought I had. Some other dude answers the call. Apparently he has had this number for 10+ years. At this point, I'm starting to panic, so I message various friends and family and ask them what my number is. All of them come back with the wrong number. Please help me understand this, as I genuinely think I'm going nuts. I just want to know what the F happened. Edit. I'm very glad to have posted on this sub. The answers have been very helpful and have given me a reality check. This has helped me to confirm that I am genuinely experiencing this. I'm probably not going nuts, but the doc appointment I have this week will help confirm that. I will update the post following the tests. I have gone through every possible person and email, even 2 previous employers, who have had my number, and as far as I can tell, going back at least 15 years, I have never had the number that I thought I had. I have always been with this new number. To anyone doubting this or thinking I'm lying, thank you, genuinely, for doubting this and making me go back and double, triple check stuff. I 100% promise that this is genuine. I'm not messing around, I'm not trolling, or any other idiot just looking for some internet points. I am genuinely struggling to accept what I believe has happened, and I'm just looking for answers. My keys glitched. By Anonymous. Hey guys, long-time reader, first-time poster. I think I may have experienced a glitch in the Matrix today at work. I went to grab my keys off the hook in my locker, as I do every day, but they weren't there. I thought maybe they fell, so I looked in the bottom of my locker, but, no keys. At this point, I slowly took everything out of my locker and shook it out. Literally everything. Still, no keys. I was starting to think maybe I took them home by accident. So I started to reorganize my locker and put everything back. That's when I heard my keys hit the bottom of the locker. They had nowhere to fall from. There was literally nothing in my locker at that point. Long story short, my keys glitched and they appeared out of thin air. My Neighbor's Cat is Glitching by Realistic. Background info. I moved to my new place about 3 months ago. It's a small gated area with a cluster of about 10 to 15 really big houses and 4 families living in each house. I've never really communicated with any of my neighbors in this community, but I know that one of them has a cat. I know this because they let that cat loose during the daytime and let him wander around the gated community. I don't really know what his real name is, so I'll call him Garfield. He's hard to miss, a plump cat with a whitish-orange coat and a weird red and white striped collar, almost like a bag of popcorn. Also, recently, he limps when he walks. Location. I live on the ground floor of the big house, so my porch lies directly on the ground, i.e., there is no elevation at all, so you can jump in and out of it. Also, the sides of the porch are guarded by black metallic bars spaced about half a foot apart, wide enough for a medium-sized animal to squeeze through. The right side of the field of view from my porch is cut off quite sharply, as I am located on the end of the road and there is a house to my right positioned at an almost 90-degree angle to mine. The left side of my field of view extends quite far, along a road that continues almost endlessly towards the left of my porch. This road is lined with my house. Behind my row of houses is a forest. So, Garfield comes from one of the houses towards the other end of the road and ends up on my porch every afternoon to lie in the sun. I'm not sure why Garfield chooses my porch in particular, but I don't mind it. I come outside to pet him, and we're friends now. This has happened every afternoon for the past 3 months, but the weirdest thing happened to him last week, and I can't explain it. As usual, I'm sitting outside and I see him emerge from the house at the other end of the road, and comes out for his daily stroll. It's unmistakably Garfield, a limping white-orange ball with a red and white collar. I'm waiting for him on my porch, but as he arrives, he looks towards me and hisses. He's a very calm cat, and this isn't like him at all. He then runs away towards my right out of my field of view and behind my house. This is something I've never seen him do before and was especially surprising to me because he was limping. Before I had time to process what happened, almost instantly from my left field of view, I see Garfield emerge from his house again, all the way on the end of the road, limping again and calmer than ever, proceeding on his daily walk. He walked over to my porch and laid down, as he always does, completely back to normal. There is no way that he managed to vanish out of my right field of view that quickly, go behind my house, through the forest, and reach his house on the opposite end of the road and exit it again, all within 1 second. I also don't understand why he was behaving so weirdly the first time, or how he got over his limp. Seems glitchy to me. I Lost My Daughter Glitch by Mafiti. Hey, so this just happened and I have an eerie and weird feeling that something is not right. So first let me explain the placement of my house. When you come in, there is a little hall, and in front of you is the bathroom. Then you go to the left, and you have a small kitchen. Then a door, then it's my bedroom, but it's so big I turned it into a living room. Right next to my bedroom is my daughter's bedroom. Everything is in an L shape. I, 24, live alone with my daughter, 2, and our 2 pet bunnies. So I had lunch with my daughter, and it started getting cold and dark, So we went to my bedroom and closed the door to the kitchen. She always plays in my bedroom and her bedroom that are directly connected. I was reading some Reddit stories while I listened to her making her usual noises, talking to her, singing, asking me something, moving toys around, the basic child noises. Suddenly, the house goes completely silent. And after a few seconds, I think that maybe she is being mischievous and doing something that she isn't supposed to, like all kids do. So I check on her since I didn't see her from where I was lying. Let me make it clear that there is no way for her to go outside without opening the creaky door to the kitchen that is in front of me, and she would never try to do it since the lights in the kitchen are off and she's scared of the dark. So I look everywhere in her bedroom and start calling her name. Nothing. Check in her closet. Nothing. Under her bed. In her little play tent. In her toy chest. Under my bed. The sofa. My desk. Everywhere. Nothing. She is nowhere to be seen. Let's mention that she has never tried to hide and stuff like that. She comes when she's called, so I started to freak out. I knew I didn't hear her leave my bedroom to the kitchen, but I checked anyways. Nothing. The bathroom. Empty. Now, I'm starting to panic and go outside again and check everything over. While I'm in her bedroom, I hear crying from outside and look through my daughter's window to see her outside, laying on the ground, only wearing a t-shirt. Not the t-shirt she was previously wearing, but one of the t-shirts she does have. I ran outside, almost falling over, but when I opened the door, silence. She wasn't there. There was no crying. Silence again. I go outside and check everything and can't find her or any trace of her being there. Defeated, I go back upstairs ready to call 911 when I go to my bedroom and see her calmly playing with some blocks in her bedroom. She was wearing her clothes as if she'd never disappeared. The t-shirt I saw her wearing outside was in her wardrobe, neatly folded. I'm still in shock and sitting, staring at my daughter, feeling like if I blink, she might disappear again. Glitch or Doppelganger by Natikins. I'm a high school teacher. Several years ago, my husband and I took a weekend trip to San Antonio for our one last getaway before the school year began. One evening, as we sat down at Joe's Crab Shack, I noticed that a boy in the family we sat next to looks a lot like one of my students from 2 years prior. I didn't want to stare long enough to be sure, though, that it was him. However, a while into the meal, I heard the young girl, who I assumed to be the sister, call this boy by the name of my student. It's not a common name. I turned quickly now to look at him, and they all looked at me curiously. "Are you CS?" I asked. "No," they replied. "Oh, I'm sorry," I said. "I just heard her say K, and I taught a KC 2 years ago." "Oh," they cut in. "This is KC," the father said, pointing at the boy. He smiled quietly, as was characteristic of him. "This is KC," he said again, "but we aren't the C's. He's been saying you look like his teacher," one of them, can't remember which one, said. "Well, guess what?" I said, smiling at KC. "I'm teaching juniors this year, so I might get you again." He was still smiling, and the sister now had him in a playful headlock. "I hope we don't get any bad notes home this year," the mother said. I told them that while I don't remember KC being a problem himself, he had been in one of the most hyper classes, and I might have sent a few notes home to many of the boys' parents that year. We then reviewed how crazy the class had been, and the student nodded in agreement when I laughingly mentioned some of the names of his classmates. So, that was that, and we said goodbye when we left. At the beginning of the school year, about a month after our trip, I did end up with Casey on the roster. On the first day of school, I mentioned seeing him on the river rock. He said nothing until I mentioned it again later, and this time he said, "That wasn't me." I questioned him, not just that day, but for several days, because he stuck to his story. He had never been the river rock that summer. He even swore to God, and he never swore to God, he said. I emailed his mom to make doubly sure, explained that I knew it was a strange inquiry, but I had to put my mind to rest. She emailed me back and assured me he had never been in San Antonio that summer, and had been taking care of his little sister while she, Mom, was at work that very evening I thought I saw him. Also, she was white and had no husband, nor there a male figure in Casey's life at the time. The Casey's parents I saw at the River Rock were black, and the only sister Casey has is much younger than this girl at the River Rock. So the mystery remains unsolved. Was it just a coincidence and there was another Casey who looks just like my Casey? And who was the teacher that looked like me? Or did I cross into a parallel universe where Casey was in San Antonio with a couple that wasn't his parents? Or did Casey unknowingly bilocate? LOL. He said he was supposed to have been in San Antonio that very week with a good friend, but didn't go. I'm afraid I may never know, but it's something to think about. "2 hours gone in a blink" by Skeet's Data Droid. I've never put much stock in these glitch in the Matrix type stories until it happened to me. Let me start off by saying that I'm 38 years old, and after several years of persistent viral infection called cellulitis that requires an IV antibiotics to treat, left me with kidney disease. Yippee. With my kidneys pretty much useless, I started dialysis 3 days a week. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, at 4 hours a pop. Treatment consists of being hooked up to a machine that pulls the blood from your body, cleans it with a combination of filters and chemicals, and then returns it to you via a 10-min catheter in the chest. On the day in question, I arrived at my usual time at 10:30 a.m., and after waiting in the waiting room, watching the last half hour of The Price is Right, get called in for the temperature and weight check. After getting the all clear from the reception nurse, I head to my designated chair, lucky number 7, and sit down to be hooked up to the machine. As I get prepped, I chat with the nurse technician about this and that, and after she leaves me for my treatment, I plug my cell phone and pull out my lunch bag from my duffel. Pulling out a Capri Sun pouch from my chilled bag, I stick the straw in and take a couple of sips while swallowing the pills they normally give. Mainly vitamin D. Then put the pouch down on the built-in table attached to the armrest. Phone in hand and Bluetooth headphones on my head, I decide to watch a movie to pass the time and load up the Prime Video app, and choose Avengers Endgame from my library. The film begins with the decimation event, aka the blimp, taking Hawkeye's family and then switching to deep space and the rescue of Tony Stark and Nebula by Captain Marvel. Then I blink a couple of times and have to keep my eyes closed because of a searing pain, almost like having lemon juice squeezed into your eyes. After a few seconds of rubbing my eyeballs with the back of my hand, the pain subsides, and I go back to the phone in my hand only to see the credits rolling. Thinking that I must have touched the screen during my eyes closed moment, I move the timeline back to begin where I was and continue to watch. Without looking away from the screen, I reach to my right to grab the juice pouch from the table, only to find it empty and flattened, with all the juice sucked out like I normally do. At this point, I was very puzzled. I wondered if I fell asleep, which has been known to happen, especially during dialysis, but then what happened to my juice? I distinctly remember taking just enough to swallow a Tic Tac sized pill, and what caused that pain when I blinked. I asked the nurse if I fell asleep for a couple hours, and she shook her head and told me I was watching something on my phone and barely acknowledged her when she came over to take blood pressure reading, as they do every half an hour or so. So now I have this missing 2-hour gap in my day and no idea what happened to cause it. Any ideas? I Saw My Blood Before I Got Cut by Isaac. So this happened about a year ago in August. Not as crazy as some posts here, but I thought it was pretty strange. At the time, I was working as a painter. We would get a load of lumber meant for trim on a house. We would take the trim to my boss's shop, sand, lacquer, and stain them. My coworkers in, and I was outside in the sun, working on sanding the rough 80 pieces of trim we had. Upon finishing sanding these boards, we would take them together. They were too big for one person to carry, to a rack inside. Suddenly, we started noticing little red splotches of wood that we thought looked like blood. It got annoying because we would see them on already finished boards, and then we'd have to go back and sand them off. We all checked ourselves for cuts, or nosebleeds, or any source of blood. Nothing. It kept happening, right in front of our faces. We would be sanding and look back at where we just finished, and there would be a little red drop that looked like blood. It was getting all over the boards and becoming a pain to go back and redo our work, so once again, we stopped, and this time checked each other for the source. Again, all three of us were clean and could not tell where it was coming from. We considered the idea that it was sap from the wood, but this type we were working on had a yellowish sap we had already been dealing with. Not red and a liquid-like phantom blood. Finally, I ran my hand over the board to see if it was smooth, and I drove a splinter into my finger. I cursed and lifted my hand, and 2 little crimson drops of blood fell onto the board. They looked exactly like what we were dealing with, like I had been bleeding on the board this whole time. Except there was no way. At this point, we were all a little weirded out, and took a smoke break. I pulled out the splinter and put on a band-aid, and we all got back to work. There was no more red splotches after this. Nothing too insane, but none of us could explain where the blood was coming from or why it had stopped. Hey, don't forget to leave a comment and tell me what you think down below.
Paper disappeared and then reappeared by Delvana 001. So, I've read before that people say they've had things they know they put in a specific place just go missing, and then crop up in the exact place it was at to begin with, and well, it happened to me. My mom had asked me to make an appointment and take her cat to the vet because she was really busy with work and doesn't have the time. Her cat is having some problems, and since I could spare the time, I agreed. So I called the vet, made the appointment, wrote down the details on a piece of paper to stick it to my calendar so I wouldn't forget, ripped the paper off the pad it was on and placed it right next to the pad for about 30 seconds, while I turned around to walk in the opposite direction to grab my phone on the couch so I could place an alert on my phone, and when I walked back to grab the paper, it wasn't there. I have a bad memory due to health problems, so I have to put appointments in multiple places so I don't forget. I looked at my husband and asked if he moved it. He was in the kitchen cleaning up and shook his head. I told him I placed the paper right there and pointed and said it's gone. He helped me look for a good 5 minutes looked on the floor, around the kitchen countertops, around the area where I said I had it. I even looked around the couch, the entire kitchen floor, and the trash. Just oddball places that I thought, well, maybe I thought I placed it down, but don't remember throwing it away or leaving it on the couch. So I grabbed my pen and wrote down the details again, ripped off that piece of paper, walked to the calendar, stuck it on the calendar, turned back around, and there is the paper. The stupid little piece of paper that was right where I had left it. Right next to that stupid notepad that both myself and my husband checked all over for. Acting like it was right there all along and I'm going out of my mind. I literally started an argument with my husband because I was convinced he did this as a joke. When he started to get upset that he never touched it, didn't move it, and why would he perpetuate my memory problems like that? I looked down at the dumb piece of paper and surrendered to the fact that it was there, and now it's back. So, now there are 2 pieces of paper with my mom's cat's appointment details stuck to the calendar.
Something I can't explain happened. By No Neighborhood 1485. I wanted to write this a few hours after it happened so I don't have false memories, and I can look back on it later. I'm usually a very rational person, and I hate this website, to be honest, for what it has become over the past few years. But I wanted to write this for me, just so I can look back on it. So, pretty much, I'm homeless at the moment. Well, I go looking for housing, and I'm staying in, usually shitty, hotels, while I wait to find a place to move into. I have money saved up, so I don't have to literally live on the streets. Long story short, I got out of rehab and relapsed quickly and was staying in sketchy hotel rooms for a few days at this point. Since then, it's been about 5 days, and just today, I finally found something I couldn't explain. Just for clarity, I have a massive tolerance to alcohol and have control how drunk I get. I don't hallucinate or have crazy dreams. I don't dream at all while using, and I don't have false memories or memory loss yet. I'm only 28. Okay, so I was at 7-Eleven after drinking myself above a buzz, but not drunk at all, which for myself is quite a lot of shitty malt liquor. The chip in my debit card is broken, so I have to either hope the store I go to either has a system in quick entering the chip failing enough times triggers me to swipe it, or just order everything online. 7-Eleven's system never prompts you to swipe, and if you try, it will just forever say, wait for the cashier. And it will decline every time. Pissed off that I couldn't get my cigarettes at 2 in the morning, I was about to leave when this young Hispanic kid, about 25, asked me if I had a Cash App and if I knew that I could just add funds to the virtual card and use my phone to pay for the items. He helped me set it up and eventually buy my cigarettes, and I thanked him and gladly sent him $5 on the Cash App for the help. We talked outside and smoked, and I found out we were both staying at the hotel about 50 feet from the 7-Eleven. He told me his room number and asked if I did other drugs, and I declined. He was also homeless and staying at the hotel. I told him my room number and wished him good luck. Later that night, I got a knock on the door. I opened it, and it's the kid asking me if I had a charger that he could borrow. For a number of reasons, I was not too trusting of this guy, but I was in a good mood, and he seemed like a good kid, so I let him borrow it because I knew where he was staying just a few doors down. Or so he said. I woke up around 8 a.m. and realized he had never tried to give my charger back. I knocked on the door for the room he told me he was residing in, and there was no answer. I just assumed he stole it, and I was being a naive idiot, which I usually am guilty of being because of my faith in people. I had to go buy a new, shitty charger at the 7-Eleven because my phone was dying, and I was pretty pissed off at the time. Fast forward to today. In a different hotel miles away from the other, I didn't know this guy, and I don't have his phone number or anything. I was looking for something in my suitcase and pulled out the same charger I lent the dude I met at the 7-Eleven. Built-in Lightning made for an iPhone 12. I couldn't believe my eyes. The only way this would be possible if he lied to the front desk of the ghetto hotel, telling him that he was the owner to the room and lost his key, and then snuck in and put it back. I never black out with my tolerance, and I wasn't taking any benzos either, which will make anyone forget entire days or weeks if mixed with alcohol. This is just one of those unexplainable things that I've seen in my life. What the fuck happened? If you're enjoying this video, hit that like button and make sure it feels it.
A Friend of Mine Apparently Never Existed by Adam Hole Bay 1. My friend of the past 5 years never existed. So, this is going to sound crazy, but here it goes. Around 5 years ago, I moved to a new school during my senior year of high school. I didn't necessarily have trouble making friends, as I joined the football team, and they are very welcoming of me. I enrolled in this sort of advanced PE class that was for athletes in the school. That is when I met a dude named Tyler, who was a grade younger than me and was also on the football team. We instantly got along, and he became probably my best friend at the school. We would hang out outside of school, but for some reason, he would never come over to my house, and never wanted me to come over to his house. I didn't think too much of it. Anyway, I graduated that year, and we haven't really talked since. We would occasionally text about the NFL, but nothing more than that. I had a dream last night about the guy, and when I woke up, I figured I would text him and see how he was doing. I couldn't find his contact in my phone, but that's not uncommon, as I've had several new phones since I was in high school. I asked some of my old high school buddies if they had Tyler's number, and they acted like they had no idea who I was talking about. I even searched social media to see if I could contact him through that, but still couldn't find him. I was feeling like I was losing my mind. So, I asked one of my buddies if he could find him in the yearbook from that year, and he said he could not. I didn't bother to purchase a yearbook that year, because that was my only year at that school. I even checked out Max Preps, a website that records high school football rosters and stats, but I didn't find him on there either. After a couple hours of syncing iCloud photo data to my phone, I ended up finding a picture of me and him, but nobody seems to recognize him. I have no idea what is going on, and I was wondering if anybody has shared a similar experience. Here is a link to the photo of me and him back in 2016. Edit. A couple people have messaged me asking if I got his name confused. I guess it's possible, but I have plenty of solid memories of the guy's name, because his first name was my middle name, and we used to call each other Tyler at the mall and stuff to confuse people. I absolutely remember his last name too. Update. After requesting a record request from my high school, they told me they could not give out any personal data, but they did say nobody by that name ever attended the school. Also, after paying a professional website to go through the one picture I had of him, they could not find any matches. After talking to several people from my high school from social media, all but one person said they have no recollection of him. The one person said they did remember me hanging out with one special kid that he couldn't remember, but couldn't verify it was Tyler. This whole experience has been pretty mind-blowing. I really do appreciate everyone's comments and messages. The most plausible explanation here is that he was probably in witness protection. But wouldn't more people remember him? Especially being on a football team at a rather large public high school? Speaking of which, I've combed through pictures and rosters from several websites of our team, and there is no trace of him. Sometimes there are things in life that are genuinely unexplainable. However, sometimes you just have to accept these conditions, which I'm slowly learning to do. Thank you all for helping me on this bizarre mental journey.
Bandmate in Two Places at Once by Anonymous. So, here's my glitch story. April 2017, my band was on a road trip to Roswell, New Mexico, of all places to play a gig, and I believe it was somewhere in Missouri at night that we stopped at a rest stop. No idea exactly where we were, but I remember saying to my bandmates as we pulled into the lot that this place gave me Twilight Zone vibes. It just had an eerie sort of presence to it, and I like that kind of shit, so it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. So, I don't even know what the other two guys were up to. They may have just stayed in the car. But what I do know is that me and the bass player had to go inside and piss. This is just your normal setup of a parking lot out front of a rest stop off a highway. I don't smoke anymore, but back then I did. Me and the bassist decide to smoke a cigarette first before going inside to pee. He offers me a cig and ensues to call up his girlfriend to update her on how the trip is going. So I'm just standing there smoking and chilling, and he's standing next to me smoking and on the phone. We are both out front of the entrance to the rest stop, and we are both facing outwards towards the parking lot with our backs to the entrance of the building. Suddenly, while still on the phone, the bassist starts casually walking back out towards the van in the parking lot. I see him walking away, and his voice grew more and more distant. I don't recall how far away we parked, but there's only one lot, and I remember just seeing him walk into the distance in front of me, still on the phone with his girlfriend. This confused me, as I thought he had to go inside to piss, but I didn't give a shit, and I was finishing my cigarette as the moment unfolded. So I just shrugged and put out my cigarette and immediately turned around to head inside the rest stop building. As soon as you get inside, it's completely empty, but you have to walk straight down this hallway to get to the bathroom. I remember there was some sort of Route 66 clock that had a spiral shape or something directly above us as you entered the hallway. It just overall had a Twilight Zone sort of vibe to it. I don't know how exactly to explain this experience. So, I'm walking down the hall and get into the bathroom, and I hear someone in the stall who is talking on the phone. His voice sounds exactly like my bassist. No one else is in the bathroom. I can't see who is in there, but I'm standing at the urinal pissing and laughing about how weird it is that this guy sounds so similar to my bandmate. But I know for a fact it can't be him, as it would be physically impossible for him to have gotten into the bathroom before me when I had literally just saw him head out towards the car in the parking lot about 20 to 30 seconds earlier at most. I even said to myself, Now, that would be ridiculous if it was somehow him. But even as I said this to myself, I knew for a fact it wasn't him. Except that it was. Sure enough, a moment later, the stall door opens and out comes the bassist, still on the phone with his girlfriend. I'm finishing pissing, so he is behind me washing his hands. I turned around and I see him still on the phone, and he's now walking out of the bathroom. I don't even think that he noticed me in there with him, but at this moment, I was absolutely stunned. And I'm left there in the bathroom by myself wondering what the fuck just happened? I end up telling him and everyone about this when I got back to the van. And he also explains that he went through a different series of strange events, but I can't remember the details of his side of the story anymore. All I know is that it was simply physically impossible that he could have been in the bathroom before me when I literally saw him walk out into the distance towards the van, and I immediately head inside to the bathroom. Sorry if this was overly long, but I wanted to be succinct as possible about how it went down. Confused Customer by Sensei. Me and my wife were living in an apartment, and we both were going to college at the time, and we had a magic router. I found out as soon as we moved in that I could get a good $20 a month for my first year of service. I called them, and they charged me, and instantly my internet is on. I got my router in my wall from my previous house, and that's what we were connecting our game systems and laptops to. This is important, since nowadays you may have internet you don't even use if you use data on your phone and are crazy. There are also only one place in the apartment to connect your router to. The internet was never great, and the router was on the other side of the apartment from my living room, which really sucked, and I spent plenty of my time resetting the router to get the internet working. We lived in this place for a year. However, 6 months into our stay there, my internet goes out for a couple of days. Not a big deal. I called the internet provider to bring a guy out to fix it. He comes out and checks my outlet. No internet. Goes to check the outside. No cables to connect it. Checks the basement. No box connected that would have connected to the main internet. No place for it to even have been in the past. He checks the past on the place and says they've never set up internet in this apartment in the past, so it never had a box or wires connecting to my second-story apartment. He would have to string it up 2 stories through the wall to get the cord through. As he is taking it through the wall, he tells me there isn't even a hole in the wood for the cord to go through that would have been there had it been connected. He managed to get a cord up and get us internet, but he was as shocked as I was and said that there was no way I used my own internet, that I was using the same router from a previous house, and after he connected it, I stayed on the same router and it finally worked. Anyways, not sure what happened here, not sure why they were able to flick it on, and be certain that it was fine at first, and then show they had never had a service later. Not sure how I got internet to my PS3 at the time to play COD and watch Netflix. Confusing Cul-de-sac by Sensei. When I was 18, I lived in a relatively small city in Kansas. No nightlife and no highways through my city. I lived deep in the suburbs in a house at the end of the cul-de-sac. My house at the very end. There were a lot of twists and turns in the neighborhood to get to my house, and it is unlikely that someone would randomly go there unless they were told to go there. I always struggled with insomnia and would stay up late reading or watching anime, and often I would jump out the window and chill outside for a bit of fresh air. I did this all through my teens, but around 18, I got a bit confused because I started noticing something that made no sense. I couldn't seem to just chill in my front yard because of the constant traffic in the streets, and I didn't want people calling the cops on me for being in my front yard. Constant traffic that was about a car every 10 to 15 minutes, all night long. None of the cars ever seemed to slow down or swerve or stop at any of my houses. They simply drove down the road at a normal speed, ran around the circle gently, and then left. I was no crazy person. I seen The Truman Show and The Matrix and thought immediately of this at the time. But I tried to prove myself wrong. I hid out in the bushes near my road to see if it was a police car driving by or maybe the same car or group of cars. But what I found was it was never a police car, never a girl, never multiple people, never someone that looked drunk, never someone crazy looking or like they were looking for something. Just some different guy in a different car every time. Usually the state I live in as their license plate, but other times it would be states all the way across America. Keep in mind, no highway nearby. Other things that I realize now that I didn't think about then is that it was also an older neighborhood with no parties or even people that would go out to party throughout most of the neighborhood. Closest bar would be about 10 miles away, and there would be no reason to go anywhere near my city unless you specifically lived there. I'm open to suggestions as to what was happening, since all of mine seemed to have been proven wrong when I looked in more. I'm glad to have found this subreddit, as I have a few things like this happen to me, and I'm excited to share and read other stories. If you're enjoying this video, hit that like button and make sure it feels it. Night Shift Visitor by Sandwich Mage. I posted this on r/paranormal, and the first response said this might be the place for it. I used to work at a hotel as a third shift desk clerk 5 nights a week. It was an easy job, and I was able to watch HBO and play on the internet while getting paid. My only real job was to rent out the rooms to late night travelers through the night shift window. Occasionally, a room would not be up to par for a customer, either because the maid staff failed to clean something or the customer simply thought the room was not as nice as they paid for. In such cases, I would offer them another available room or give them a refund and mark the room on our chart as dirty. One morning, I had been home off my shift maybe 3 hours getting my sleep in, and my boss called me asking me to come in, and there was an issue from the night before. Quickly got dressed and called my friend, as I didn't have a car of my own at the time. I got there maybe an hour after he called and found a very angry owner waiting for me in his office. He brought up the chart from the night before and asked me about a room I had marked as dirty. He said he went to the room to check it personally that morning, as he had made a note it had been marked dirty the day before as well, a night I did not work. He knew it had been cleaned and was upset to find it in shambles. Blankets, sheets, towels, and the pillows were thrown about the room. He reviewed the tapes the whole hour he waited for me to come in. Now, we have 2 cameras facing the front desk, one aimed for the lobby, showing the whole desk and the night window, and another overhead getting a better view of the tilling computer. On top of that, there is a camera outside facing the night window and 2 cameras in the hall leading to that room. I gave all that information to tell you the same thing I told my boss that day. That night, I remember having a couple, a man in his mid-30s with dark hair in a black or dark blue denim jacket, and a blonde woman standing about 5 feet behind him in a red dress and a white coat. The man came to the window like any other person. He asked me for a room, no preference on bed or smoking availability. I gave him a small paper to fill out his personal information. As he handed me the cash for the room, after putting the cash in the till, I activated his key card and got him his receipt. The man handed me the paper and I handed him his cards and his receipt. He nodded to me once and headed off. I didn't see him again that night, but he was in that room that was now marked as dirty. The boss had the board where I would have clipped the customer's paperwork, and it was not there. The till was accurate for the amount of rooms rented on my shift, not including the dirty one. And at the time, I remember renting the room, the camera told a different story. You could see on the desk camera, as I got up from the computer, walked over to the window, stand there for a bit, walk back over to the till and card machine, then back to the window before returning to the computer and putting the sheet on the board to my left. However, on the camera facing the window out at the exact same time, there was nothing. No man, no woman, not even a distortion. On the camera in the hall, you never see anyone go near the room from the time it was cleaned the day before to the moment my boss entered it to check why it would be dirty. We were both stumped, and we sat there together for probably another 2 hours going over the footage to figure out anything that could equal logic. But in the end, we both agreed that it was a very strange situation. If you have any explanation that makes sense, please feel free to let me know. Hey, don't forget to leave a comment and tell me what you think down below. I think I shifted universes by an afterthought for the past couple of months, I've felt like a stranger in my own life. I've recently moved out and away from my hometown, and I moved into a new home on the 1st of May. Life has generally been on an upswing lately, and the change has been doing some good to me. Part of me doesn't want to talk about what happened because the events mess with my head too much. This happened around mid-May, and at the time, I was delivering pizzas while trying to move, finish college finals, and generally keep my sanity. This was an average night, and I had to make a delivery to one of those casinos in the area. This is where I have my memories a little crossed. I usually take the freeway and stole my topper in the back of my car so it doesn't fly off while I'm driving. Part of me knows I took the freeway there and back. However, I also know I took a longer route. Just thinking about the event gives me a headache. I'm hoping I was just tired, but the memories feel too real. Okay, sorry for sounding so cryptic, but here's the deets. Long story short, I had to deliver a pizza to the second floor of a casino. There are 2 elevators to take. The right one only went up and the left one went down. That's how the casino staff wanted to use the elevators due to COVID. However, I guess I didn't get the memo on one of my previous deliveries, but they both go up and down. I distinctly remember taking the right elevator, and I was the only person going up. I checked my watch, finding time to look around before my delivery. I wanted to go to floor 6 instead of 2. That's where I was supposed to deliver, just to look outside. I wanted to see if I could find my car from the 6th floor window. But I knew I had a job to do. I figured I could see my car on the 2nd floor. I clicked the 2nd floor button and laid my head back to take a second to breathe. I opened my eyes and looked to the corner of the elevator. You see, the elevator has 3 mirrors making these endless spiral reflections of myself. When I opened my eyes, I saw a reflection of myself. I don't know how to describe it, but something felt off. Then the elevator descended 6 floors, and I walked out of the left elevator. I remember many people were looking at me all weirdly, and I just shrugged off the feeling and explained how I got lost. It's not like I wasn't freaking out at the fact that I had somehow got into the left elevator and descended 6 floors. While explaining myself, a woman and her husband asked me if I needed a ride to floor 2. They explained how they were going up there, and I tried to chalk it up to a coincidence. But things have not been the same ever since then. I talked to one of my friends a couple of nights ago, and he suggested that I might have come from the Berenstain universe rather than the Berenstain universe. Now, I'm not one to believe in much of anything, but his comments felt different instead of just being a coincidence. Personally, I think Berenstain is a typo that some book had, while the general consensus was Berenstain Bears. On the offhand, I remember numerous books and TV episodes saying Berenstain, so who knows at this point. I explained what happened at the casino that night, and he theorizes that mirrors are like an infinite corridor, and we could possibly move through them. Instead of time traveling, it's universe hopping. He explained that time is an arrow, and it's only going to perpetually move forward because there's nothing stopping time. I'm sorry if I'm using very metaphorical language. This is like the basic idea he had explained what happened to me. If time is always perpetually moving, it could mean time is linear but on different vibes. Think of a guitar and look at the different strings. When you press your finger down on a string, it makes a note, right? Say I started the G string and move up to the A string on the same fret. The note is similar but plays on a higher vibration. So he thinks I could have hopped from one parallel universe to the next. It's like the third dimension is composed of all parallel universes. Since we generally are all the same linear set of time, we can't travel forward or backward. Still, we can possibly hop to parallel universes, akin to how our fingers can play on the same fret, but on a different string. For example, in our personal lives, we can make the best decision, but what would that be? Technically, if there are infinite universes, we've made every single decision in our own lives, right? So in another life, I would have pressed the 6th button and gone to look out the window to find my car. But I didn't. So instead, I clicked the 2nd button, but still descended 6 floors and walked out of the left elevator. In all honesty, maybe I mixed up my nights when I worked the night shift. I recently have quit that job and started working at a motel. I'm going back to school soon, and I felt like I needed to share this story. It's been messing with my head for a while, and I needed to just get it out there. Anyone else had this happen to them? Update, July 6, 2021. Hey Redditors, thanks for all the comments. I tried to get back to everyone who commented because I'm genuinely curious about everyone's reaction to what happened. I did go to my doctor, and they told me that physically, okay, but I needed to be screened. Long story short, I have PTSD, and now both my doctor and therapist are concluding that this event might have been a mix of overstress and a PTSD episode. Their explanation, along with others on the post who have pointed out a mental health problem, makes sense. It sounds better than actually shifting universes or dimensions or what have you. Again, thank you for taking the time out of your day to read and comment on the post. Hopefully, everyone's having a good day. In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. The time I'm pretty sure I died in another universe. By Leon033 Gaming. This happened, close to a decade ago now? I just saw this post that reminded me of the incident. This will be the story just before this one, actually, listeners. I was also a pizza delivery driver in a rural county. I had delivered on those roads for years at the time. I had delved deeply into occult practices and was very interested in multiverse theory. Weird things had started happening around me at the time, stories that I will save for later. This event and one other made me quit doing all of that shit, and I settled down to lead a boring life as an accountant. About 6 months prior to this, I had a bad accident where I swerved to avoid a head-on collision and lost control on the side of the road. Anyway, I was delivering a pizza on a somewhat curvy road. I was flying down the road, the sun was in my eye, and I was looking at the vehicle up ahead of me, trying to decide if they were a cop or not. Because, speeding is cool. This area was a straightaway with a 25 mile per hour curve to the left. Pretty open area, and you can see ahead, even with the curve, for about a mile. Before I knew it, I was at the curve going about 70. I hit the brakes, not enough to squeal the tires since I knew I had to go through the curve, and squealing the tires would make me lose control. I got it maybe down to 45 and tried to ride through the curve. I was too far to the right for the corner at the speed and had nowhere to go. I felt my car sliding. I felt my rear tire go off into the gravel, the same sensation as my first car crash months ago. I knew I was losing it, and very clearly saw the power pole I would be hitting. I braced for the crash when nothing happened. I then felt a strange feeling, like I was in a strong current pulling me back, and the view outside my window got very blurry, just a stream of color. It felt like my car was picked up and suddenly put down, back about 50 feet from the curve, going about 20 miles per hour. I carefully pulled over to collect my thoughts and lower my heart rate. The feeling was that I had been picked up in some kind of bubble and brought back in time about 5 seconds and slowed down to a speed that was more reasonable. As I mentioned, this was about 10 years ago, and nothing like this has happened since. My life and I changed that day, and I feel like it's noteworthy to mention within a week of this, I stopped dabbling in the occult, and the weird happenings stopped. She was cuter in the coffin than she ever was on our dates. But honestly, it would have been even better if she stopped crying. My mom came home twice without leaving. Bye, Asaji. Let me give you a little backstory. I'm a 10th grade student, and I have a little brother who goes to a different school. Both my parents were working at the time. My mom quit her job recently due to a mobbing. This happened a few months ago. Also, I had online school fully this year, save for a week, where I went to take exams in person. My brother went in person a few more times than me. I don't know, that's just what our government mandated. Now on to what happened. The reason I point out that my brother goes to a different school is because, well, I use the school bus, he gets picked up by my dad. And that week I was pretty much always arriving home first. It was Thursday. I can know whether I arrived first or not the moment I slip the key into the lock, because the last person to leave in the morning locks the door. The first person to arrive unlocks it. You still have to use the key when it's unlocked, but you only twist it once. It was unlocked. Thinking when my parents had arrived before me, I said, "I'm home," but got no response. So I assumed someone forgot to lock it in the morning and went to my room to change. Then I sat down in the living room and went on my phone. That's when I heard the drawer being opened in the kitchen. My mom often comes home with groceries and puts them in the drawer first thing when she comes inside. So again, I assumed the door opened and I just didn't hear it. I lightly shouted, "Hey Mom!" Well, the equivalent in our language. From the couch, I swear she said, "Hey honey," or something back. It was around 5 p.m., so the sun was setting. And around that time, you can see people in the kitchen's shadows on the corridor wall from our living room. She had a shadow, and it moved, and I went back to watching a video. So imagine my surprise a few minutes later when I heard the door open, got up to greet my dad and brother, and was met with none other than my mom, groceries in hand. A little uneased, I asked if she went down to the car to get some things. She said she just came home. I asked her again more directly and told her I just greeted her a few minutes ago, and she just laughed at me, and I think she thought I was joking or trying to scare her. It's kind of been on my mind ever since. One possible explanation is that I was stressed from the exams, but they weren't that hard, and though I studied a lot, I felt pretty good the whole day. I'm very puzzled. Standing over her dead body, I was so happy my mother's abuse was finally over. Wait, why is her corpse moving? Hey, don't forget to leave a comment and tell me what you think down below. My friend and I experienced possible missing time and woke up in an impossible location with no memory. By Spam Central. I will include images off of Google Maps with coordinates to help, and if anyone wants to look around there themselves. My friend and I were hanging out at my house. It was a house in southern rural Arizona. Big plot of mostly empty land with a trailer in the middle. We would often walk this area a lot, and I knew this area really well. We drove ATVs to make little dirt trails. I decided we would walk to the small retention pond about a half a mile away to see the gross water. The time was about 10 to 12 p.m. in September, so the sun was in the center of the sky. I noted this because sometimes the shadows get dark in the wash, and I wanted to be able to see for snakes. There was a fairly deep wash that runs into it, and it's really noticeable as a 5-foot to 10-foot deep crevasse in the ground. It was dry at the time, and we climbed down into it to walk easier to the pond. Do not do this, it's very dangerous. We arrived at the pond and played around for a bit. There is a hill on the left side when you enter from the wash, where you can see the house from. It is 100% a straight shot back. This is the only hill you can do this from, and I made a mental note to stick a stick on the top so I knew the right spot to go down where there were no cactuses. We both stood on the hill by my stick. We both confirmed the house is in our eyesight. We grab each other's hands and skid down the dirt side of the hill. When my feet hit the bottom, I blinked and let our hand go. We were not at the bottom of the hill. There were mountains and landmarks to aid, but I knew the land by my mind already due to the saragos and the water runoff patches. We were not even next to the pond anymore. Then I noticed how much later it was in the afternoon as the sun was beginning to start setting, like that orange stage right before it's going down. At the top of the hill, it was maybe 2 o'clock. I think it makes sense from the distance and us exploring a lot. Now it was around 6 o'clock. We were nearly half a mile away by the old power lines and old trailer that ran to the side of the property. The hill we stepped off of should have been behind us and was instead out of sight behind the trees around the wash, and we were out in the open. The time had passed and neither of us knew what just went on. The feeling was just, how did I get here? I better get home. Kind of like a feeling of shock and no emotion, just solution-based. All I knew was to disregard the facts and get my friend and I back home. I knew following the trail and lines would lead us back, but I didn't want to cross the wash again. But didn't care, as I felt like if the sun went down and we were still out there, we wouldn't make it back. I have no idea how to explain that feeling, but it may have been a general shock and anxiety of the event itself. There was no way I had been able to deduce this. We had crossed the deep wash again, another smaller 2 feet deep wash, and then walked another third of a mile into the middle of the dirt patch near the trailer/road to get there. We had already done a lot of climbing and trudging, so we did not choose that, and we would have remembered. My friend was silent the entire time we walked back to the house, and then told me she didn't know what happened once we got to my room. I asked her about 2 years back, and she just told me, yeah, that was weird. I have no memory of that blank, and she seems to not know either. I even recalled the story to my mom, and she just put it up to imaginative thinking. But it plagues me still, not knowing what or how that occurred. So here I'm going to have the pictures up on the YouTube channel. The first one is a red circle is their house, the green line is the wash we walked down, and the blue is the pond. This one is a blank reference with nothing on it. This is the spot on the hill we walked down and the spot we teleported to. It is 0.43 miles away. Close up of the exact spot on the hill that we slid down. I was sitting in a dark room, alone, when the demon whispered in a calm voice, "I have to destroy everyone in this room." I think I'm stuck in the Matrix? By Fast Prophet 2212. Yes, the title sounds ridiculous, and I'm aware how crazy I'm going to sound, but please, just hear me out. Every day, I wake up at 10:32. My partner brings me the same coffee with 2 sugars and milk in the same mug. As I'm about to drink my brew, my cat jumps up on the bed and sits on my chest. I smoke a cigarette whilst my partner plays a game of online poker. At 11 o'clock, I open the curtains, and outside, I always see the same red car drive past, and then a black one follows, but gets stuck at the red light, which I can see from every window on the front of our house. I've never thought much of this part because it could just be coincidence. But here is where it starts getting weird. When I go into the kitchen, there's always these 3 same cups and 1 plate to be washed and the same amount of cat food in the cat bowl. When we turn on the TV, the same TV show, American Dad, is ready to play. Even though we don't watch that in the living room, I normally watch it on Disney Plus in the bedroom when I'm falling asleep. My friend always calls me at 12:30 with the same conversation that we had the day before, but we never discuss having a phone call at 12:30. My partner makes me the same ham sandwich for me at 1 o'clock. It always looks exactly the same, with the mayo dripping from the left side. My cat always comes across the sofa from the window to where I sat, but always meows at me 3 times first. My toilet routine is always the exact same, going to the toilet at the same time, doing the same thing every day. Every time we eat, I end up with chicken, mash, and veggies. The same pigeon sits on the fence, and I know it's the same because one of its feet is scrunched up and it stays there until we go to bed. We go to bed at 8. The annoying car goes past playing the same song, Gorilla's Dare. Then my sister calls on FaceTime at 8:30 and always ends the call at 9:47. I roll a spliff and watch Family Guy. It seems to be the same episode, or they all blur into one and it seems like I've watched them before. My partner falls asleep at 10 and last night I just had enough. I can't make out whether I'm crazy, in a mental routine, or in a glitch in the matrix, because this is driving me insane. I really need answers or help or just someone to tell me to shut the F up. I have tried to change the day by going to the park or seeing friends or inviting them around, going to the gym to break up the morning. I have tried changing what I eat or playing music. I even stayed away from the house for a full week. Literally so many things, but nothing changes. If people want proof, I will take pictures or videos, anything. I'm honestly getting to the point of moving homes now. This has only started when lockdown did, like a year and a half ago. Sorry for my grammar mistakes, I'm dyslexic. First edit. Someone commented to check my FaceTime records between me and my sister, and all that I found was that she hasn't been FaceTiming me. I've been FaceTiming her with unanswered calls. Also checked my calls from my friend at 12:30, and none exist at this time anywhere. This is strange. Second edit will be around 6:30 after I've spoken to my partner, sister, and friend all together. Second edit. Sorry guys, I never mentioned that I have epilepsy. It turns out that I've been having facial seizures throughout the day for a while. My partner has told me I walk around and talk to the windows and have been none the wiser. So yay, I'm going to have a call with my neurologist. Sorry about this post, I feel like a right twat, but hey, maybe it's something we can all laugh about together. Feel free to explore the first 3 floors of the cave, but never go further than that, lest you wake the guardian. We dismiss the old woman's advice as local superstition, until we heard the sound of 1,000 insectoid legs clicking and raising from the abyss. If you're enjoying this video, hit that like button and make sure it feels it. A case of vanishing voices and a missing dog. Siren Hex. First thing I do in the morning is take my dog for a walk. We usually go early as we don't have encounters with bigger dogs that way. I have a beagle, so he barks at everything, not realizing his size. Anyways, I live on the 2nd floor, and when we come back, I take the harness off my dog and let him run upstairs by himself. When he reaches the door, he impatiently scratches at it, and no one ever gets the door. This happened last year, early March, I think. I did my usual routine, and when we reached the stairs, I heard voices of people leaving the flat above mine. This is an open-staired building, and you know how each door has a special sound when opening and closing? Well, that's how I knew it was the flat above mine. The voices were like those of people leaving from a party, joyous, enthusiastic, and it was 7 in the morning. So I stopped at the stairs, pondering whether to let my dog off the harness and run upstairs, to run after him and try to reach the door before they got to my floor, or wait at the bottom of the stairs for them to leave. My dog knew he must stay put on the 3rd step for me to take off his harness. And as he's waiting, I decided to go on as always and apologize later. All this while hearing their footsteps going down. By the time I got to the 1st floor, there were no people, no more footsteps either. I came to the conclusion they saw my dog and decided to wait until he was inside. But there was no scratching either. So I hurried, and to my surprise, I reached the last stairwell and had a clear view of my door, and there was no dog. A couple times he's mistaken our door and kept on going upstairs. I thought this is what happened, but there were no people standing there waiting to go by. I panicked for a second because, from my point of view, the door looked completely shut. Only when I stood right in front of it, I saw that it was open at a 45-degree angle. But how could the angle affect my perspective so badly? I remember touching the glass and honest to God believed my dog had gone through. I was so freaked out, but still, I thought that was the explanation. My mother was sleeping in the living room at the time because she had had a bad fall and got her knee injured. It was still early days, so she couldn't move without crutches, which I used to hand her after I came back from the walk. Even so, I asked her if she had opened the door for the dog, who was standing in the middle of the living room, wildly wagging his tail, looking at me. He usually goes about sniffing around when he comes back. She didn't hear me well, so I walked to her spot and asked again. She gave me this confused look and said that when she didn't hear the dog scratching at the door, she thought I was right behind him, and said something like, "That was fast." But when I didn't reply, she thought something bad had happened on the walk and that I was mad. I explained the whole situation, and she said I probably didn't close the door all the way, but I have this obsession of double checking everything is closed or turned off correctly. So I knew for a fact the door was completely closed. The door has a handle on it, and every time I go out, I lean all my weight towards the step, holding the handle and making sure it's properly closed. And my dog always waits to hear this sound to take off running downstairs. It's pretty loud sound too, and the door needs a big push to open or close because it has this thing at the button that gets stuck. My mother brushes it off almost immediately, but it's something I kept thinking of because I still don't get it. The vanishing voices and footsteps, my dog not being there, the door looking shut only to be open a second later. I have no idea what happened that day. To prove a monster doesn't live under my bed, my brother decided to sleep under it tonight. Now I can't sleep because something is right beside me. "I'd kill for ya," she said, kissing him. "I have killed for you," he thought. I think I died in a parallel universe. By Insert Human. This happened 2 months ago, and I don't know what to think. I was going to school with my brother, and he locked the door to our flat. The way our building was built, there was a lot of space to hide, and I walked around the corner to hide so I could scare him. Then I noticed something. My neighbor's power box, or whatever you call it, had a weird texture. I don't know how to describe it. It's just weird. I went to touch it. Then I was 50 meters outside my apartment building, and my brother was talking to me about something. I went to school and forgot about the experience. Then I stumbled across this subreddit and thought I would share it. I believe in the quantum immortality theory, so I think I died and my mind continued in a parallel universe where I survived. "Aren't you scared of the serial killer on the loose?" my passenger asked me, just as I noticed the knife in his pocket. "Well," I said, slowly reaching for mine, "don't forget the one that never gets caught." My backpack teleported, plus a witness, by Ban the Doctor's Mains.
For context, if you walk into my room, you'll see my bed plus desk on the left side of my room, a long heater and small bookshelf on the wall in front of you, and a dresser and desk on the right side of the room. Now, this event happened on a Tuesday, but on Monday I came home from work and put some groceries away and put my backpack down in the living room by the dining room table, and went to take the trash out, shower, and then go to bed. So Tuesday night, I'm hanging out with my roommate, and she suggests we go smoke some weed. We head over to my room and she sits on my bed facing the wall that my heater is on. Basically kinda in the middle of the room. I forgot my lighter, so I went to the living room to grab it and come back. I then started opening a package that contained a longer Ethernet cable, and she says she needed to pee before we start smoking. I unplugged the smaller Ethernet cable out of my router and PC while she comes back in and sits in the same spot. I show her my new cable and she points at my heater. Again, she has a full view of most of my room, especially the middle, and mentions something about the heater and cable. Forget exactly what she said. I then plug the cable into my router and PC and then go under my desk to move my PC back into place. As I come back up and turn around, my backpack is sitting in the middle of my room. I thought, that's weird. Why would she bring my backpack in here? And then said, where did that come from? She looks down and is in just as much shock as I am because she would have seen it when she pointed to my heater. We kind of freaked out about it for a second, but tried to forget about it. Super weird.
Our town has a strict curfew at midnight, and all new residents are required to put up a scarecrow in their front yard as soon as they move in. Oddly enough, that's the only thing that deters it from snatching people on their sleep. Pic of myself sleeping? By Hannah Holographic Tabana. I live alone with my cat. The other day, I was going through my photos and I found one picture I don't remember saving or taking. It's a picture of me asleep, fast asleep. I can tell because my mouth is open, so I was knocked out. But I don't know when it was taken or if it was taken recently. It's obvious the photo was taken in my room, but I have no recollection of sleeping with anyone. My boyfriend has been out of town, and when we first started seeing each other, I only slept at his house, and this photo was taken in my room. This really creeped me out because I sleep with all my doors double locked. I have bars on all my windows, and the only person with an extra key is my mother, who is 2 states away. I have no idea how or when this photo was taken. I'm sure I didn't accidentally roll on my phone and take a photo because the camera angle looks kind of like an aerial shot. I still have it in my camera roll, and it makes me super uncomfortable. The only logical explanation I can think of is an intruder taking it, but there really is no way. I'm not in denial because of the fear. There is literally no way anyone could have taken it, and I have no idea how it got there. Creepy edit. I do not feel comfortable posting a picture of me sleeping. But in the comments below, I gave the best description. My arms/hands are visible, and the picture looks like it was taken from standing at the foot of my bed. Y'all could be right about a prank or a friend taking it, but the whole point of this post that I seriously doubt any of my friends took it. I don't have sleepovers, roommates, sexual partners, or anyone that would have taken it. She always had just the most beautiful blue eyes. Her collection beats mine out by far. I popped out of time, I guess? By Nerdy Teacher 1. The experience I'm about to describe happens quite a lot to me, but I'll focus on one specific event from earlier this year. Since my teenage years, I thought I had these long, drawn-out periods of time when I simply turned off. It used to happen when I was alone and understimulated. I have Asperger's, by the way. And I didn't realize it happened until it was over. I'll just suddenly look around and see that many hours have gone by without me noticing. Given my condition, I never put much thought into it, since I have always just regarded it as me spacing out or something of the sort. It doesn't seem like a glitch, right? Lately though, it's been a little more aggressive. Happens even when I'm doing stuff. And the worst way this has happened started last year. I'll be doing something simple, like watching a video, film, listening to music, or whatever. And I'll just suddenly realize when the film is over, music has stopped, etc., that hours have passed. Many more hours than the album/film/video's length. But since it's only happening when I'm alone, I still didn't think much of it. Until this day, when my wife was there, I was watching a YouTube video on my laptop. It was about 45 minutes long. Right at the beginning of the video, I got up from the sofa and told her I was going to use the bathroom and then I would take a bath. This was around 7 p.m. I took my laptop with me and sat there doing my business while watching the video. It always takes me a longer time than most people to use the bathroom, over half an hour. So she was used to me being in there for a while. It just so happens that around 35 minutes into the video/into the bathroom, she was knocking on the door. I thought she wanted to use it, so I told her I wouldn't be long, to which she responded, "You already have, come on." And I was like, "What?" She insisted, "Come on, you've been in there well over 2 hours, what are you doing?" At first, I thought she was exaggerating the time, as she often does, and I looked at the clock on the taskbar, 7:43 p.m. I closed the lid and proceeded to flush and prepare for a bath. She still insisted I had been in there for over 2 hours, to which I kept telling her to stop exaggerating. But when I opened the door and reached for my phone, it was 9:27 p.m. The 45-minute long video wasn't over yet. I was sure, once again, that not that much time had passed, but all the clocks showed the same time. Except my laptop. I told her that it was impossible and explained what just happened, and told her to get my laptop and look at the time it was showing. She did. It was 9:28. I couldn't believe what I saw on the lock screen. I was visibly shaken and she got a little worried. I explained to her again what had just happened and she didn't make much of it. She said I probably spaced out, maybe paused the video, maybe I got the time wrong when I looked, but none of that was true. And this episode was a confirmation I always needed that something is off in my time perception, or even in my relation to time as a whole. I was a little reluctant about posting this, but, well, here it is. Edit motivated by a comment. When it began, many years ago, I thought it was me just spacing out, but more recently, I've come to think that it's not the case, but actually a different time flow because of the way it happens and how aware of it I am. Maybe I didn't express myself so well. Sorry. "3 more to go," said my toddler after singing me happy birthday. I thought nothing of it until she said, 2 more to go the year after. Time glitch? Something weird happened to my brother and I tonight. By Thrasham.
Tonight, I believe my brother and I somehow got into a time loop, or deja vu. Something odd and nothing feels right anymore. My brother, 13, and myself, 25, were in the car waiting for our family to be done at Walmart. It's about 9:40-ish. We think nothing of waiting and just talking to pass the time, as my brother tells me about school from his 6th grade adventures. Mainly about weird kids in class. Keep in mind we are in the back seat of a truck and are in the parking lot of Walmart. Looking to the right as I'm seated on that side, I see a man wearing a dirty white shirt, running with his daughter as they wail and holler and laugh. Seeing this, my brother and I both laugh, because it was kind of funny to watch. On the left of the truck, on my brother's side, is a blue car. A man is packing that car, but taking forever. So we go back to talking. About 2 minutes later, a group of 3 girls walk by the truck, laughing and saying random banter that I can't quite remember. Something along the lines of someone being so funny. They get in the car dialogue to the truck and laugh before pulling out and leaving. My brother notices the blue car guy finally leaving as well moments later. He commented with saying, "Finally." Here's the weird part. After we talk a little bit more and laugh with each other, suddenly we hear a familiar wail. I turn to the right, and it was the same dirty white shirt guy running the same path with the same daughter laughing. I said deja vu out loud and felt a little weird. That feeling of what in the world? My brother laughed a bit thinking I was meaning, till he looked and noticed the blue car guy packing again. I pay no mind thinking maybe he forgot something, and go about talking again till we hear the laugh of the 3 girls. They load up and pass our windows again, getting in the car dialogue of us. Same outfits, same being so funny. By now, my brother and I are looking at each other. I mention it's weird, and why is that guy running the same path twice? My brother says maybe he forgot something in the store. I shake it off, and I look at my dying phone at 2% charge, and we note the time 9:50. My phone dies trying to load up YouTube, and we laugh and talk. My brother takes his switch after some time and notes the time is still 9:50. We were talking for at least a good 5 minutes. We think it's weird, getting a little nervous, but distract each other with jokes. About what feels like 2 to 3 minutes later, the same white shirt guy and daughter run out the store wailing and laughing. We see it, and now we're worried. Turn to the left, and the blue car is still packing. My brother comments, "Maybe we are in a time loop like you said." Then the girls come out and go to their car again. This time, we do something different. We watch this white shirt guy load up his daughter in his van and talk to the driver for a bit before getting in and pulling out. I was curious to see if they actually left this time. The girls leave, and finally the blue car. My brother states, if it happens again, we go in the store. We feel like it's been ages waiting till we see our family leave the store and come to the car. They don't believe us, only our father who likes to read about theories, and then we make a note of the time. 9:55 p.m. How did all that happen? How did we see the same people 3 times doing the same thing 3 times? We aren't tired, and we both witnessed the same events, and both are in agreement. Our family says they felt strange in the store, but leave it at that. What happened to us? It's been on my mind. Were we in a time loop? Any answers help. Thanks for reading.
When I entered our house, I saw myself holding a knife full of blood and a body on the floor. I ran towards him, snatching the knife he was holding, and stabbed him, and when I looked at the door, I was there. I went missing for 2 hours at my intern workplace. By unidentified OP. So it's my second day there, but I have found the basic needed facilities, like the toilet, staircase, lift, emergency exits, and so on. For the level I'm on, the toilet is one way, so there is a corner you turn to get to the toilets. At this corner, there is a camera that points away from the door. So if you have to go to the toilet, you would naturally pass by the camera twice. I got to the office, set down my things, and went to use the toilet. I finished my business and headed back to the office, where I see my supervisor and the other person I'm supposed to be shadowing. The rest of the people in the team were also staring over my stuff, talking and looking concerned. When I entered, one of my friends, who was also an intern at this place, saw me and honestly said, "She's back," with so much relief. I looked very confused and said I just went to the toilet. My supervisor just said,
You were in the toilet for 2 hours?
I was like, "What? No, I was in there for 10 minutes max."
Then where have you been? We all thought you were missing.
What? I just got here and went to the toilet. Did no one go and check the toilet?
We did, but no one was inside it.
What?
Well, at least you're okay. Back to work.
I was still confused, but brushed it off. During some free time in between tasks, I went to the security office and asked to see the camera footage of the toilet on my level. He showed me, and I saw I had only passed the camera 2 times, and in between them, I saw one of my colleagues go into the toilet and come out a few minutes apart. I thanked the officer and went about my work. So yeah, I disappeared for 2 hours in my workplace toilet that only had 1 entrance and 1 exit. Edit number 1. There are so many comments asking if this was the first time. Sadly, this isn't the first time. It's happened almost once every semester on campus. The longest I disappeared for is like 8 to 10 hours. My friend is well aware of it. I've had medical screenings done and psychological evaluations, but everything seems normal. The toilet also has 3 stalls, but my coworker swears she opened all 3. Edit number 2. Thanks for all the awards. People have been asking for more detail about the camera footage, so I'm not able to get a copy of it due to actual security issues, but here's some of the details about it. The video is timestamped with the time and hours it has been recorded. I went in at 8 hours 34 minutes and came out at 10 hours and 30 minutes. My colleague went in at 9 hours 1 minute and came out at 9 hours 8 minutes. The camera caught both of us going in and coming out. I did ask if they could check the rest of the cameras along the corridor from the toilet. They did, and it all showed I was missing for 2 hours. I specifically checked the camera in front of the office door that looked partially into the office and the corridor outside. The camera did see me walk through the corridor to the toilet and back from it. The only thing odd was that the camera kind of shifted a bit for a few seconds to a minute, like it kind of glitched. It was at the 9 hours and 12 minute mark. But there's no way I could have exited the toilet and walked back to it without the other camera at the office door catching me. Or for the fact that I could have gone out past the office or walked around and went back into the toilet in about a minute. I saw a picture of myself on the news. a little boy said gleefully to the woman gripping his hand, who stopped. With tears in their eyes, Death simply smiled and patted his head, leading him into the beyond. Some nights I peered out my window and noticed strange smudged handprints on the outside of my window. Tonight, I looked at my window and saw the smudged handprints were on the inside. Reappearing Glasses by Matawin Quinn. About 4 years ago, me and my boyfriend were watching TV, getting ready to go to bed, and I took my glasses off and put them on the computer chair that was next to our bed, along with our phones, just like I did every single night before going to sleep. I woke up in the morning, and my glasses weren't in their usual spot. I brushed it off, assuming I must have left them in the bathroom or something, so I got up and started getting ready. An hour later, and still no sign of my glasses. I started panicking. I had at this point checked the entire bedroom, including the bed sheets, under the bed, any crevice they could have fallen into. I checked the bathroom, and they weren't in there. I even went out to my car to see if I left them in there for some reason. Which I know I didn't because I was watching TV with my boyfriend the night before. And I'm fucking blind, so I know 100% I had them on before bed. And, as expected, no glasses in the car. At this point, I'm freaking out because we're supposed to be leaving for vacation the next morning. And this was my only pair of glasses because the other pair I had was being repaired at the eye doctor. We proceeded to absolutely tear apart the entire room looking for them. Like mattress off the bed style looking for these glasses. And they were literally just gone. Our flight wound up getting pushed back a day due to snow. And on the day that we were supposed to leave, my eye doctor called me to tell me my other glasses were ready to be picked up. Weird coincidence that we weren't even supposed to be there that day, but wound up by chance being able to go get my other glasses. Fast forward 3 years to December of 2020, and me and my boyfriend are packing up to move into a new apartment. And I open the first drawer of our desk, something we use frequently, to sort through what we were going to keep and what do I see sitting on top of everything else in the drawer? My fucking glasses. No dust, looking like they were just neatly been placed there for me to find. Me and my boyfriend were in shock because we know for a fact we would have seen those glasses in there. 1, when we tore apart the room, and 2, literally any other time in the 3-year span that they were missing. Because again, we use that drawer on a regular basis. To this day, we still joke that we had a ghost who stole my glasses, because we really had no other explanation for it. That is, until I started looking more into matrix glitches. My friends and I decided to play on a Ouija board in my house after discovering it was haunted, and it kept telling me to look behind me. I couldn't understand what it was trying to tell me until I realized I was the only one of my friends to have a reflection in the mirror. I clearly remember riding a monorail I was never on, by Magical Bunny. I don't think I've posted this before. If I have and somehow forgot, my apologies. Boring relevant info first. I was born in New South Wales, Australia. The capital is Sydney, and my hometown for the first 2 years of my life was only a few hours' drive north of Sydney. At the age of 2, my family left New South Wales and moved even further north up to Queensland, putting us many hours in the opposite direction of Sydney, about 18 hours by car. Fast forward to 2013, and I meet a guy in Sydney online, and we start dating. He visits me the first lot of times, and then I went down there to see him. He decides to show me around the markets and other areas. Now, I've never been to Sydney that I could remember, but suddenly assumed I must have been because I remember pretty much everything. The streets, the markets, roads, I remember it all. I also remember riding the monorail, which opened in 1988 and decommissioned in early 2013. Growing up, I always remember the experience and my sister being with me while I was on it. It was such a clear memory, I never thought to inquire as to whether it actually happened. When I got back home, I told my mom about seeing everything again and remember riding the monorail and how it was no longer operating. My mom looked at me strangely and told me that she had never taken me to Sydney at all, and that while my family lived in New South Wales and moved to Queensland when I was 2, there'd never been a trip to Sydney. To this day, I have no idea how I knew my way around Sydney, or how come I remember riding the monorail with my sister when my family says it never happened. Bonus weirdness. To add to the weirdness, the guy I was dating was quite bizarre, and I ended up believing he was a spy. He had claimed to go by one name and to work in a particular place. Turns out, he never worked there despite regularly chatting to me about his workplace and the people there in an animated way as if he had. He also claimed to be a school teacher under another name, and at one stage, years after he'd broken up, he appeared as a suggested friend on Facebook under yet another name, before that profile quickly disappeared. He also took regular private flights somewhere with people he claimed had offered him money to play poker, despite the fact he wasn't actually much of a poker player. Yeah, strange. I stood there looking at the rubble of my house that had been brought down by a drunk superhero and thought of my wife and 4 kids that had been inside. He turned to me and said, "Don't worry, they're alive in another timeline." I've talked to a man I didn't know. The thing is, he wasn't alive. By Anonymous. This happened 7 years ago. I was still in college, struggling to finish out my remaining exams, drinking every Saturday with my friends on the bridge in front of the local castle. Few different groups of people were there always, all of them friendly and about the same age. This is important information for later. My parents own a fishing supply shop. It's a small town, home business, with many people coming in being either elderly people or youngsters getting in on the fishing action. So one day, I was waiting for my mother to handle all the customers as the cashier, while my father was explaining details to new fishermen. I needed to talk to her, so I just waited aside. Since there was many people waiting to pay and to get the receipt, one older man approached me, asking me if I knew his grandson. He told me his name, and I realized he is one of the drinking buddies from the Saturday booze sessions. He told me about his issues with the college professors, his plans to move to Germany with his girlfriend, all kinds of information I didn't know about the dude. He came next in line to pay, so he quickly did, and while exiting the shop, he waved to me and told me not to forget to greet his grandson. Next Saturday, I met the dude and told him his grandpa said hi, only to see him go pale and shocked within a second. Both of his grandpas were long time dead. I described in detail what he looked like, how he talked, how tall he was, and he thought I was joking. I asked him to show me all of the pictures of all of his older male relatives, and he managed to find many on his Facebook profile. He showed me, and I picked the right person within seconds. The older man I've seen had no brothers or similar looking relatives. The dude I told this to was weirded out by this, and he left soon after. The day after, I asked my mother if she had noticed anyone like that. It's a small town, but my parents don't know everyone that comes in, or notices not so well-known people when there's that many customers. My mother told me that she had seen a man talking to me yesterday while I was waiting, and described him in the same details as I seen him. There is no similar looking dude with that name or surname as an older man told me, so it's not possible it's a mix-up. All of the details this man mentioned about this dude were correct. I could never know his life plans, nor have I heard them from anyone else. To this day, thinking about this puzzles me. It's creepy, haunting, and I don't like it even though nothing bad happened. As a kid, I would pretend that someone was chasing the car when we drove home at night. It wasn't until my mom started crying and driving faster that I realized I may not have been imagining it. Portal in the Woods by Masquerading Muppet. Hi, I'd like to ask if anyone else has had an experience like this. I've had a handful of weird things happen in the woods in the years I've been camping. This one and one other experience have both stuck with me a lot. So this happened in September 2017 in the Kettle Moraine State Forest in southeast Wisconsin. Two friends and I decided to do a last-minute camping trip before the end of summer and classes getting into the full swing. I was going into my grad school year and my two friends were going to be seniors. None of us had been drinking when this happened. We set up camp and decided to go for a hike along the Ice Age trail that ran next to the campgrounds before it got too dark. We didn't leave with a specific plan in mind, but found a loop trail and continued on that. This section of woods had trails that were on top of a ridge, so there were steep drop-offs on either side. Not like you die if you fell, but pretty steep 20-foot hill drop more like, so you really can't go off trail. So the trail is probably 4 to 5 miles, and by this point we're going on our last mile, and the sun is setting. We didn't realize we'd take this long, so none of us had our headlamps with us. But that's fine, since we guesstimate we only have about another mile left or so. We round a small corner, and the trail ahead has a tree arching from either side of the path overhead, creating a doorway almost. That wouldn't be a big deal, except for the fact that the area of this doorway was shimmering. Almost like when you drop a stone into water and it ripples and sloshes a bit. We all stopped, and one of us said something along the lines of, "Am I dehydrated, or does that look weird?" That's the best way I can describe it, at least. We all saw it, but there was no turning back at this point. We only had maybe 30 minutes of daylight left, and couldn't go around and couldn't turn back. Finally, one of us, I think it was me, but I can't recall for certain, stuck our arm through. Nothing happened. It still looked the same, shimmering like water or heat off the backtop on a hot day. We all walked through and we're all fine, seemingly. We joked for a few weeks/days that we stepped into an alternate universe. I'm only friends with one of the friends now, and a few years later, I brought it up to her, and she just said she didn't want to think about it. It didn't impact me that way. I just thought/still think it was odd. Anyway, I've heard of stairs in the woods, but we can't be the only ones to encounter a portal in the woods. I broke into my neighbor's house to steal. But upon entering his bedroom, I discovered hundreds of pictures of myself taped on the wall. The Night Sky Disappeared by Masquerading Muppet. Thought I'd post my other unexplained glitch here as well. Like I said in my previous post, I've seen/felt a number of weird things in various national parks, BLM land, and national forests. I'm actually going to get my wilderness first responder certification this March because of some of the unease last summer in a remote park. But really, only this and my other posts could be described as a glitch in the Matrix. I did a volunteer program after college, and we frequently went on nature retreats as a big group. This happened in November of 2018 at a campground just east of Mount Rainier National Park. It was so remote that no one in our nearly 50-person group had cell phone service. Our only tie to the outside world was a ranger that came to check on us once a day. We weren't allowed to have alcohol or drugs at these retreats. So no, none of us were intoxicated in the slightest. There were a couple cabins throughout the campground, and if you walked through the trees a bit, there was a sizable lake. A few friends/housemates and I went to look at the night sky because we knew it'd be full of stars. This is Washington State, so all the trees are massive and block out most of the sky. The only place we'd really be able to see the stars would be over that small lake. So we headed down to the lake area, despite it being pretty cold. There's 2 logs there for us to sit on as well. We settled in, waiting to see some shooting stars. It was a running joke in our house that we need to see 5 shooting stars when camping/in the woods in order to fall asleep. 4 out of 5 of us in this group all lived together at the time. So we are all steadily watching the night sky for about 10 to 15 minutes when this happens. It only happened for maybe half a second, but we all saw it. For the shortest moment of time, half the sky went completely white. Just stark white, like a sheet of paper was placed over half of the night sky, right down the middle. After a moment, one of us said, "Did everyone see that?" We all confirmed what we saw. If you read my last post, you know that I, of course, was wanting to figure out what it was. I never found a solid explanation. And similarly with my other friends, these friends also told me to stop talking about it whenever I brought it up, months/years later. It wasn't scary to me. It's just, again, super odd, and I didn't have an explanation for it. It made no sound, and was gone before any of us could comprehend it beyond what I described. It wasn't lightning. I'm from the Great Lakes region, so I know lightning. It wasn't an airplane. No idea. Being able to see for the first time, I looked to what seemed to be my hands. I was so happy until the doctor walked in and told me he was sorry the procedure didn't work. I think I encountered a teleporting hotel employee by Chihuahuadorn. This happened when my cousin and I were teenagers, probably around 15 and 16 respectively. Many members of my family were staying overnight at a hotel after the wedding of another family member. My cousin actually thinks it was for a different person's wedding, but that detail doesn't change the story. I was not one of the people staying the night at the hotel, but I had some time to hang out and have fun with my cousin before my parents came to pick me up. We didn't have a lot to do, and we tend to be kind of mischievous when we hung out together. Never did anything crazy, just average dumb kid shenanigans. So essentially, we decided to walk/run around different areas of the hotel, explore, getting snacks, etc. My cousin remembers us knocking on doors to random rooms and running away. At one point, we noticed a middle-aged man in the same hall as us, who was wearing nondescript clothing and had on a tool belt. We tried to act natural as soon as we spotted him, but I'm sure we weren't very convincing. From this point, every time we turned a corner and checked behind us, this man would be following us. He never yelled at us or said anything, and he never moved at a pace faster than the average walking speed. But it was extremely clear that he was following wherever we tried to go. It freaked us out a lot because we obviously didn't want to get in trouble. Plus, the dude just had a weird energy with his silent, casual walk. We were panicking pretty hard after a few minutes of this, so our plan was to get into the elevator and quickly choose a random floor a few levels up so that this guy wouldn't know where we went. When we got into the elevator, he was walking towards us from our left side, so when we were inside and turned around, he would have been coming from our right side, and was maybe 100 feet down the hall. We got up at least 3 or 4 floors, turned left out of the elevator, and started fast walking in that direction. Within maybe 10 seconds of us getting off the elevator, the same guy rounds a corner a little ways down the hall and is now walking towards us. I distinctly remember saying, "That's not possible," out loud to my cousin as we were rushing back to the elevator. After that, we actually went to the front desk and told the lady working there that we were being followed. And when we described the guy, she told us he worked there. We spent the rest of the time hidden in a little nook next to the lobby area where we could stay blocked by a bookshelf. At one point, the tool belt guy did come into the lobby, and we saw him talk to the lady at the desk before leaving. I was 100% convinced at the time that I had just seen something completely unnatural, and not humanly possible. Even if this guy could have gotten to the elevator to see which floor we gone to, there is absolutely no way I can think of that he could have gotten up to the same floor from either a staircase or a different elevator in the time to be walking at us from the opposite direction than he was coming from before, no more than 10 to 15 seconds after we gotten out of the elevator. It always stuck in my mind as something weird, but over the years I started to write it off as an overactive imagination due to how scared I was in the moment. Then I just saw my cousin when we hung out over New Year's, and she brought up the hotel and how the man had been following us through the halls. Once she mentioned it, I started to say that at the time I thought he had traveled an impossible distance in an impossible amount of time while following us. And before I even finish recounting the exact scenario, my cousin was nodding that she remembers it too. Still not sure what to make of this situation, but it's definitely the weirdest story I have. As I hold his lifeless body, wondering what I'd ever do without my twin, I hear a voice behind me. See, honey, now nothing will ever stand in the way of our love. Seeing someone stare at me from the crack in the ceiling tiles, I quickly alerted the staff about a potential peeping Tom. When the news vans arrived to cover the story, the police brought out another corpse from the crawl space, increasing the body count to 7. The glitch that basically created a second me. By Julia's Quiet Place. When I signed up for university, I went to campus for the first time to make it all official. I waited in line behind all the excited first years to be. When it was my turn, I sat down behind the desk of the woman who was sorting the enrollments. They asked me the usual information to get started. First name, last name, date of birth. After I had given the woman this information, she frowned and looked very confused. Miss, you can't be enrolled in the course because you've already signed up 3 days ago. Now, I was equally confused as she was. Excuse me? This must be an error. I definitely haven't. The woman looked back at her computer screen and once again confirmed my first name, last name, and date of birth with me. Nope, I'm afraid that's not an error. You enrolled in a nursing program 3 days ago. I just sat there, completely baffled. Started panicking slightly. I wasn't there to become a nurse. I wanted to become a teacher. This woman turns her computer screen to me and goes, "See? Photo and everything." When I see the photo on the screen, I'm even more confused. That girl looks nothing like me. She's got completely different features and, well, she's blonde and I've got red hair. We come to the conclusion that the girl must have the same first and last name as me. And, what an odd coincidence, she's also born on the same day. They fixed the problem by adding an apostrophe to my name in the system. And frankly, I don't think about it much more after that. Until about a year or so later, I started receiving emails, phone calls, letters, bills, all addressed to me, but meant for the mysterious other girl. I got phone calls about lost items, bills for insurance companies, emails for hospital appointments, you name it. Naturally, I tried to find this girl on social media to get in touch with her and make her aware of what's going on. After loads of searching, she doesn't use her full name on Facebook, I finally managed to find her. That's when I make some creepy discoveries. Not only does she have the same first name, last name, and date of birth as me, her sister also has the same name as my sister. I find out whereabouts she lives, which is only one street away from my previous apartment. And I find out she scheduled a hospital appointment for a health issue I also have. At this point, I have tried reaching out to her on multiple occasions, to no avail. I just can't seem to get in touch with her, and the instances of mistaken identity just keep piling up. Seriously considering changing my name at this point. Update. Lots of people are saying about it possibly being identity theft. I think that's very unlikely because of the fact that we all use ID cards where I live, and when I have to use my ID card, there's never been any problem. So she must have a unique number on hers and hasn't just copied mine. Also, I found out through a picture of her diploma on social media that she's got a different place of birth to me. Just wanted to mention before we continue on our stories that Julia's Quiet Place is also a YouTuber, and her links are down below. When I saw a little girl running out of an alley crying for help, my only thought was how to save her. When I saw what was chasing her come out of the alley, my only thought was how to save myself. Another Me? By Ordinary Hobbit. Narrated by PA Nightmares.
This happened about 3 years ago. I had recently switched positions at Walmart. I started working on Fresh Cap 2. The shifts were 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. Back then, we would work bakery, deli, meat, and produce. We were also the ones usually put in charge of working the 97 wall, lunch meat, Lunchables, and bacon. One night, around maybe 9 p.m., our team was told to stock as much on the 97 wall as we could. As me and my teammates are working, our team lead calls over to me and asks me to clean up water on the floor in front of the deli counter. I'm not good at estimated distances, but the deli counter is maybe 30 feet away from the 97 wall. Not very far at all. You can see part of the deli counter from 97. I had a box of lunch meat with a couple items left in it. I get a little frazzled sometimes when making decisions quickly, so I kind of went back and forth in my mind, deciding whether I should quickly stock the items left in the box or hurry to clean up the water. My team lead made it sound urgent, so I ended up setting the box with the items in it down on the shelf and went to grab paper towels. I thought to myself, quickly clean up the water, then you can finish this box and cart of freight. After I finished cleaning up all the water, which only took a few minutes, I went back over to finish stocking that box I left. When I returned, the box was gone. I saw it had been broken down already, sitting on the cardboard cart. I was confused, so I asked my teammate who was there the whole time if she had worked it for me and that she didn't have to. I was going to come back for it. What she told me freaked me out. She said that I did it. She said she saw me stocking the items, then even pull out my box cutter to break the box down. All I can remember is contemplating whether or not I should stock it before or after cleaning up the water spill, and choosing to clean the spill up first. But she said that she saw me do it. I'm pretty freaked out afterwards. I'm a Gemini, so I joked that it was my second alter personality that came out and did it for me. Or that me from another dimension slipped through to do it. I don't know, but it still weirds me out thinking about it from time to time. I don't know if it was a glitch in the dimension/universe or a glitch in my mind. I wanted so badly to ask management if they could show me the cameras to see what happened. I knew they wouldn't though. They would just look at me like I'm a lunatic.
It's very dark on the highway, but I know I ran over something a while back. That's why I don't want to look in the rearview mirror, because I'm driving at 100 kilometers per hour, and I can still hear it chasing me.
My Wall Socket by Unfair Judge 623.
Narrated by Hair-Raising Narratives.
I live with and care for my mother, as much as she'll let me. I currently live in the same house in which I was brought home from the hospital. Growing up, I shared a room with my sister who was about 7 years older than me. We'd had bunk beds that you could take apart and make single beds with. This is important because the logistics of the room were the same around the house. Each wall has an outlet plug with the exception of the walls that have a closet on them. Not enough room. My sister wanted to be near an outlet. Being a teenager, she wanted to play music out of the boombox while we slept. It needed to be plugged in. She had the wall with the window. She had an outlet to use that was under the window. Fast forward 40 years, our house, with us being pretty poor, had not ever been remodeled. We are lucky that it got a new roof when needed. I moved back here about 10 years ago. My life gets quite busy and I don't have time to use my room for anything but sleep. I have plenty of energy sucking machines I need plugged in and use all of the outlets around my room, including the outlet under the window. I changed my room around quite frequently at the time and finally decided on the current setup I have now. My bed is against the wall on high bedposts, so there is plenty of room under my bed for storage. I can see all of my outlets on each wall from under the bed. If I were in construction, I would have known the outlets would have been placed at the same height around the house, but I didn't think anything of it. I know that now. 5 years pass. I set up a desk. I find I need outlets for my computer and peripherals. I start to plug in an extension cord to add to the 6-plug outlet extender, and I find the outlet under my window isn't available. I look under my bed, which is very heavy, and can't remember if the outlet was placed on the wall at the same height as the other outlets in my room. I can't see the outlet I'm looking for. I can see the one on the opposite wall, so I start to feel around for it where I know it should be. No outlet. I squeeze my hand between the walls and bed. No outlet. I look where I know it shouldn't be. Still, no outlet. No outlet on the damn wall. Very frustrating. I give up. I finally get my 12-foot extension cord and plug it on the opposite wall. It plugs everything in that I need it for. I've been to more therapy than most and thought I was remembering my home from childhood wrong, even though I used the damn outlet prior to moving my bed. My family told me all the time that they didn't remember the same things that I did. I've taken in a feral cat with a broken leg. He spends most of his time under my bed. I change out his pee pads a couple of times a day. I found myself staring at the place the plug would be yesterday. No socket. No plug. No outlet. Thinking that I couldn't be remembering wrong. I was right. I changed those pee pads out today, and the plug was staring at me in the face. A 3-prong outlet, empty, with another above it, blocked by my bed, made itself visible today. Exactly where it should have been left. Within easy reach if I wanted to plug in an extension cord. What else is my house hiding from me? What haven't I noticed? I'll update if it tries to hide again. This couldn't be more boring. Making me go apeshit.
Apparently, you can glitch in real life. Now I'm falling through the earth, quickly heading for the core. Just witnessed a glitch? Cross dimensions? By Humbly Human 888. This literally happened 10 minutes ago. My boyfriend, 20 male, and I, 20 female, are up early waiting to go to the tag and title office, running some menial errands in the meantime while we wait for the office to open. We have a busy downtown street that the office is adjacent to. The street is full of cute local shops and restaurants. We're driving down the street. At the very end of the street, I look at the driver's side window, the left of me, and see The Spot, which is a new hip restaurant that just opened up. I was bewildered because The Spot should be on the right side and towards the front of the street. I would know, as I've eaten there before, and I also worked at the restaurant right behind them. I point this out to my boyfriend and say, "What the heck? The Spot has opened a second location on the same street?" And my boyfriend acts like it's always been there. "What are you talking about? That's where we ate with our neighbors that one time." And I was like, "No, the spot we went to is right by Old Little's. It's on the other side and towards the front of Canal Street." My boyfriend kind of blew me off like he didn't want to argue with me. I was so confused. I looked at the spot, I saw the building next to it. I noticed that it was exactly the same but mirrored, where the sign was facing the same direction to counteract the fact that it was all on the left side of the street now. I know I wasn't seeing a reflection because we were all the way at the end of the street. I loop through and drive down the street again, in the same direction. I find the spot that I remember exactly where it should be. Now it's on the right of me. All the signs are facing the right way. Where at the beginning of the street, the buildings around it are the same as always. I pointed out yet again. See? There's the location I remember. Why is there two? This time, my boyfriend has absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. I explain what just happened, and he doesn't understand and just starts teasing me. I was annoyed and decided I'd show him. I continued to drive down the street. I got to where I saw the other spot, and it wasn't there. I'm so confused right now. This literally just happened, and I know what I saw. I drove down the street 3 more times looking in both directions, and there was only one spot, exactly where it should be. I'm so bewildered right now. I have no idea what just happened. I desperately tried to find the wedding ring, knowing that my husband would get very angry if I didn't. I had promised that I would never leave evidence in a crime scene again. My boyfriend says he drank something I offered him, but I didn't. By Red Raven Kitty. Narrated by PA Nightmares.
I don't necessarily believe in this whole concept of glitch in the Matrix, but I have no explanation for this. It freaked me out so much that it's burned into my brain. It was between 6 to 12 months ago. I was standing at the dining room table at my boyfriend's place, fixing myself this medical thing I have to drink. It's OTC, but I'm not one to share it because it literally tastes like dirt, and it's expensive. BF was about 5 feet away, fiddling with these portable lights from his photography hobby. I was standing there watching him while I measured and stirred my drink. It suddenly occurred to me that he would find it impressively stinky, so I held it out to him and said, "Here, smell this." We walked a couple of steps towards each other and met in the middle. I held the glass under his nose to smell, and he took a whiff, then recoiled predictably. He exclaimed at how gross it was. I giggled and chugged it, and he went back to his lights. I continued to stand and watch him with his equipment for another 10 to 20 minutes, just keeping him company. We chatted about random things, and then he started to complain about the taste in his mouth. I don't know what he was talking about. He told me from that drink. I stared at him in confusion. He looked at me like I was slow. "That drink, your medical drink?" I'm like, "Yeah, what about it?" Feeling hella confused at this point, because how can you have a taste left over in your mouth from smelling something like 20 minutes later? I suppose it's possible, but that seems extreme, and it's not like the drink was made in the bowels of hell or something. He says very slow, like he is just as confused as I am. "I still have a bad taste in my mouth, left over from when you made me try your drink." I tell him, "I didn't make you try my drink. I only made you smell it. I don't know what you're talking about. You never tasted it." Now, we're both looking at each other like the other person has grown an extra head. And he says, "Yes, you did. You made me try it. I took a drink, and it was so bad. I had to go into the kitchen and rinse my mouth out to get rid of the taste, and it's still there." I tell him, "No, I never even handed you the glass. I just held it under your nose for you to smell." And since he is hyper-logical and couldn't explain it, he stared for a moment, said, "Weird," and we went back to working on his lights. Meanwhile, half a year later, I'm still bothered by it. At first, I considered the possibility that he misremembered drinking it simply because the scent stuck around for him so long. But that doesn't explain his memory of going into the kitchen to rinse his mouth at the sink. I was with him for the entire time, and he never left the living room area while he was working on his equipment. I don't know why this got under my skin so bad, but I have some pretty intense anxiety about it. I don't like feeling crazy, and I definitely feel crazy.
I watched her collapse to the ground after I used the knife to sever her spine. My girlfriend had always threatened to run away and leave me, but now she will never be able to leave.
The new hire I spoke to died 3 days ago. By Nevram 14.
Narrated by Hair Raisin Narratives.
I work at a financial institution as part of my role. I coordinate training for all new hires within the first few weeks of their onboarding. The process begins when local managers send me the names and contact details of the new hires so I can reach out to them for a brief introduction and to set the expectations of the training material. Prior to the start of the pandemic, I would simply reach out to the new hires at their new office phone number. However, with the new work from home changes, I would now reach out to their mobile numbers and residential phone numbers. All in all, a very similar process to what I was doing before, just with the caveat of having to reach out to people at home. As per usual, I received a new spreadsheet with the names and info of the new hires I needed to contact, when I came across quite a unique name. I picked up my headset and dialed the number provided. New hire.
Hello? This is OP.
Me.
Hi, good morning. This is OP calling from financial institution. Did I catch you at a good time?
New hire.
Yes, this is great. However, could you please call me at my landline? My mobile service is not very reliable in this area.
I wrote down the phone number she provided and we hung up. Immediately, I dialed the phone number and waited for the dial tone. 1 ring. 2 rings. 3 rings. Older woman.
Hello?
Me.
Hi, good morning. My name is OP and I'm looking for new hire. Can I speak to her?
Older woman.
Sorry, who are you?
Me.
I'm OP, calling from financial institution. She asked me to call her back on this line. Is she available?
Silence. Me.
Hello?
Older woman.
What do you mean she asked you to call her back? When?
Me.
I was just talking to her and she said reception in the area is not very reliable and to please call her back at this number.
Older woman.
I'm sorry, but that's impossible. Name of new hire. Died 3 days ago.
Me.
Is this telephone number provided by new hire?
Older woman.
Yes, that is correct.
Me.
I'm sorry. I may have written down the number incorrectly. I apologize for the inconvenience, and I'm very sorry about your loss.
I hung up and was at a loss for words. I somehow managed to write down the wrong number and reached a residence with a recently deceased person who had the same unique name. I'm certain I wrote down the correct number, but it is possible that the poor connection made me write a different number. I don't know what to think. This is an odd coincidence. Edit. I reached back out to the new hire's mobile number and asked her to share the phone number again and confirmed the number I dialed was correct. I was certain she would give me a different number where the digits were flipped and it might have just been a small dyslexia moment. I'm not so sure I was pranked by a family member, but it is possible that a senior resident with a mental disability might have answered and given me that info. Regardless, I didn't question the new hire, as it is none of my business if other residents live there and have access to the phone line. The next call I made back out to her landline. The new hire picked up.
My family has been so nice and hasn't started any fights since my legs became paralyzed. I will lose my arms too if it means keeping the peace. My dog suddenly walked over to me and began staring at me with a very odd look in his eye. Without warning, he opened his mouth and said, "We need to talk, and we don't have much time before he gets here." Can you be stuck between two universes? By Reception Extension 82. I went for a hike a couple of days ago, and I think I may have shifted or I'm in between two realities since. Think the shift happened in the woods. Swore I saw my sister's dog run over the hill in the distance and not come back, so I'm calling for her. My sister and dad asked me what I'm doing. The dog is right in front of us and always has been. I tell them what I saw and we laugh it off, that I saw what happened in another reality. But nothing has been the same since. Like, my mom has been extra different to me. I'm visiting for a week. I live in a different state than my hometown. I asked for cupcakes and she, for the first time ever, got dairy-free ones for me. I have been dairy-free for 8 years. Washed a towel and bedding for me with fragrance-free detergent. I've been using fragrance-free for 8 years, etc. My niece has been clingy to me, like crying that I'm leaving, which the last few times I visited, she was just like, "Okay, bye." So besides everything feeling different since the hike in the woods, I saw a bug in my bedroom on the radiator. I went to pick it up with a random bottle, and I swear to God, the minute the bottle touched the bug disappeared. That's why I'm wondering if I'm stuck or transitioning or something where I'm seeing parts of one universe while being in another. Is this possible? I know, it seems crazy. Is there any way to know? Anything I should worry about? The new female Twitch streamer is so beautiful that I'm obsessed, and I just wanted to keep her safe. I I didn't know if she was aware her home address is available online, but I knew I needed to go to her house and let her know. Quite a few things have happened. By Frankie the Trans. I have 3 stories. First story, teleporting dog. I let my dog outside. I was watching her from the window. I sat down to watch some YouTube. I think it was Most Amazing Top 10. I watched them a lot. It was about 30 minutes later, and it was cold outside, so I opened the door and called out my dog's name. She wasn't outside. I couldn't see her. She ended up coming to me from inside the house. I was the only one home at the time, and I watched her go outside. We don't have a doggy door either. Story 2. Teleporting Dog, Part 2. This time I was making mac and cheese, and I was by the stove the whole time. Our kitchen caught on fire before. I looked over and saw my dog chewing on a bone. She walked over to me, and I petted her. I continued cooking my food. I looked back over about 10 minutes later, and she wasn't there, so I walked around to where she usually lays. She wasn't there either. Then I heard her jumping on the door to be let in. I was also home alone at the time, and the door was locked. Story number 3. Bag magically fixes itself. I had this handbag that I thrifted. After I bought it, the zipper on the inside broke. I didn't bother to fix it, but today, it was fixed. I have my bag that no one has touched, and the broken zipper was fixed and closed. I opened my bag multiple times today, and each time the zipper was broken. But this time, it was fixed, and I hadn't lost sight of my bag. The once distracting patient soon became no more than a distant memory for the asylum staff, after he was transferred to a padded cell deep in the basement. They even forgot to get him when the asylum went out of business and was abandoned. Pocket Dimension Backpack by Yoon. I'm a senior at college, and I've had the same backpack since my freshman year. It's a simple gray leather backpack with 3 components and 1 small component with a zipper inside the biggest one. It also doesn't have any cloth lining on the inside. The incidents have only started happening this week. On Monday, I put my new lipstick in the smallest compartment, where I usually put my makeup and stationery. I didn't use it or even take it out the whole morning, and when I tried to use it in the afternoon, I couldn't find it anywhere in my bag. The only other person who had access to my bag was my best friend, and he's a guy who doesn't use makeup at all. The 2 of us turned my whole bag inside out, and when we couldn't find the lipstick, he suggested I probably forgot it home, and I must have thought I took it with me. I agreed, but I got home, I still couldn't find the lipstick anywhere. I was so adamant about finding it because I just bought it last week and it was kind of expensive. Fast forward to yesterday. We were having coffee with some friends before our classes started for the day. I myself hadn't even opened my bag after leaving the house, and it was literally on my back the whole time. I opened it to get my wallet, and the first thing I see in there is the lipstick. I immediately show it to my best friend, and we were both shocked because we had both turned that stupid thing inside out the previous day. And I had even texted him that night telling him, I hadn't found the lipstick at home. If this was the only time it happened, I probably wouldn't have given it too much afterthought. On my way home yesterday, I bought a pack of cigarettes. I'm trying to quit, but it's hard, I won't lie. And I kept it in my bag. Me and my best friend smoked a few, and there were at least 6 left. I even remember thinking I wouldn't have to buy another pack for the night. And then I got home, tried to smoke one, and I couldn't find the whole pack. I texted my friend asking if he accidentally took it, but he said he was sure he saw me put it back in my bag. And just like the lipstick, I found the cigarette pack in my bag again this morning. I live with my aunt. She works a lot and we barely even home at the same time, so it couldn't have been her. That and the fact that she never goes in my room, doesn't really wear makeup at all, she's a nurse, and doesn't smoke. I really don't know what to make of it at all, but in my own theory, unless something paranormal randomly decided to start messing with me, there's a pocket dimension in my backpack where my things get teleported for a day. I've been thinking about it so much, I just had to share it somewhere. My mother always threatened to lock me in the basement if I misbehaved too much. But why are there bodies that look like me down here? I'm not much of a Redditor, but I don't know where else to turn to. By Aguilar Jr. Something weird just happened to me as I was leaving the McDonald's drive-thru. My local McDonald's is at the corner of the block, so as I left the parking lot, I got into the street onto a red light. This red light has no left turn for me. It's just green on both sides and you go when there is no oncoming traffic. I noticed the other side going, but my side didn't show a green light. It was still red. I thought I may have gone too far forward, passing the crosswalk, so I tried to reverse a little. My vehicle didn't move, so I looked down on my gear shift. As I bring my head back up, I felt like I blinked, but I didn't physically blink. I can't describe it further than that. Eventually, it turned green for me and I made the left turn. I'm on my way to work, and as I pass the next town over, I notice a Hardee's, but it had the name Carl's Jr. This was the first change I noticed. Never in my life have I seen a Carl's Jr. When I got to work, I googled Carl's Jr. and noticed that the restaurant has 2 different names. I'm from California, and Hardee's is nationwide. Also, in my work jacket, I had $10 cash. Eventually, I got the cash out and counted. The ones were the right color, but when I got to the $5 note, it was the same background color with green as well. This is when I had a panic attack and rushed to the bathroom. US money is in color. $5 have an orange tint to it, 10 are white, 20 are blue, 50 are pink, and 100 is brownish red. I look at my texts and contacts on my phone. Everything looks the same. I call my wife, and it's my wife. I got home and there are minor things different that I really can't pinpoint. Maybe the books on the shelf are mixed. I never pay attention to them. It looks very familiar, but I can tell something is off. I don't know what to do. My bank account is the same. My family members who are dead are still dead. So far, it's just Hardee's, the money, and minor subtle changes in my home decor. Does anyone have any advice or ideas or what the fuck is happening to me? Should I go to my doctor? I have Kaiser through my employer if that helps. At this point, I'll take anything that might help me figure this out. I'm on my way to work now, and I chose not to try Carl's Jr. I feel if I interact with it, that it might cause a domino effect, or make things permanent. I came to the same McDonald's and I'm going to get the same food and time it, so I wait at the red light. Hopefully, it reverses whatever happened. Wish me luck. Update. I had to break down and end up explaining everything to my wife. Took some days off work and looked for other changes. The changes I noticed are minor in detail. As far as my military background, I noticed one change that doesn't really impact me. I'm also receiving VA benefits in this timeline/universe. Something I had been fighting the VA for years now for my lower back injury I had in 2008. Also, the HR lady at work is the HR lady that decided to resign and move back to Texas where she's from to be closer to her family. So the HR that replaced her never worked at my place of work. And as far as passwords go, I had to reset the passwords on 2 online accounts, Facebook and Twitter, which I then changed the passwords it should have been, but I didn't get the "you can't choose a previous password" warning. Which I found weird because my other social network apps have the correct password. So that's my small update. Still here, and yes, I did try Carl's Jr. The food is the same, except for something called Green Burrito Menu or whatever it's called. Never seen that before either. Thank you everyone who tried to help me. I've made peace with it. If I haven't jumped back now, I'm probably stuck here. Which I don't mind since the VA benefits exist in this universe. And apparently, it's been a bit of a help for us. The CDC is investigating reports of a new variant. People are advised to monitor for any symptoms, as a new reported airborne rabies variant spreads through eastern US and Canada. Same car disappears twice. By Xantha Skeleton. More bizarre, less creepy story, but one that still lingers in the back of my mind to this day. It was only 2 years ago, so it's still a pretty fresh memory. I was taking a walk around my neighborhood because the weather was nice and I decided to be nice to get a little cardio in. So I left my house about 1 in the afternoon and made my way to the local high school. I decided I'd walk to the campus, then double back and head home. It's a decent distance away, so going to and from was ideal for a walk. After about 20 minutes, I was a block away from the campus and could view the top of the building from where I was. There, I was almost at the corner closest to the school a block away. At that corner, a black, slim car turned the corner, passed by me, and drove down the street. However, I'm a very anxious and bored person, so the minute I notice people, of course I'd be interested in the micro journey I was witnessing. In other words, I turned my head to watch the car after only a few seconds of it turning the corner. The car was gone. Completely vanished. Note that I'm still at the far corner of a city block, which means there should still be a good 20 seconds or so before the car can even turn again. Not to mention, why would the car turn? If he wanted to go to my right instead of my left, it could have just kept driving straight. Sure, he could have just had a house on the side of the block. But I felt it worthy thing to mention. Puzzled, I stood there for a few seconds before turning back around and continuing forward. Another strange thing caught my eye then. An old lady watering her garden off to my right. Okay, cool, I wasn't the only witness. However, I shook my head and just assumed that this was all just a coincidence. I looked straight ahead again, towards the school, only for the same car to be turning right in front of me again, passing me again, vanishing again once my eyes followed suit as it left my immediate vision. Now, it was weird. This same black car had turned the same corner and vanished behind me for the split few seconds it wasn't in view. Twice now. It was still such an anomaly. I had never witnessed things like this before, and I haven't since. Some things to note now. It's no way it's that optical illusion where the car just barely manages to look like it vanished by hiding behind another car closer in view. The city block was stretched far enough that I could still see anything in the road. Not to mention, there were no parked cars in the street immediately to my side. Of course, there were a few sprinkled about, but nothing directly next to me. It wasn't a dream I'm just reviewing as a memory on accident. The amount of details is too much for someone like me who constantly forgets about dreams. I wasn't deep into thought or listening to music, just going with the flow of my walk, focused more on the heat than anything else. That means there's no way time just passed a lot faster than I thought. Unless I was just really intensely paying attention to the sky or the school, there's no room to explain that. I wasn't exactly paying attention to noises around me, no recollection of a car engine, sorry. Any thoughts? My father was relieved when I took my medication as he kept reassuring me that my hallucinations would now finally stop. It was only when I saw the news reports about all the missing women that I realized that all the screaming coming from our basement wasn't a hallucination. Went to bed sick, woke up feeling fine, but my daughter's favorite toy changed colors. I think I died. Bye. Sock tacos. Hey guys, weird thing happened here. About 2 weeks ago I was feeling off, like I was going to have a heart attack or going to pass out or throw up. I don't have insurance at the moment, so I decided I would sleep it off. My daughter's favorite toy was on the couch when I came out to the living room. It is, or was, a blue dinosaur plushie she takes everywhere with her. Well, I scooted over on the couch and started watching TV, hoping to pass out, and I grabbed her toy and had it in my hands to distract myself. I eventually fell asleep and woke up the next day. My girlfriend and kid were gone, and I got up to get some water. I looked down the floor and thought, ah shit, she forgot her toy, she's gonna have a fit. Then it hit me. Instead of a dark blue toy I see all of the time, it was bright green. I know I'm not crazy. She's had it for a year now, and when I had asked what we should name it, I even said we should name it Blue. She throws a fit about the toy constantly and says, I want my blue dinosaur! I want my blue dinosaur! So I know for a motherfucking fact, this thing was blue. I thought maybe she had a second dinosaur similar and I'm not crazy. Then my girlfriend calls me and asks me if her toy was still at home. I asked, the blue dinosaur? She replies, nah, the green one, the one she has all the time? I said, well, what about the blue one? To which she responded, there is no blue one. What are you talking about? My head started to spin. I started reading online about theories on our consciousness traveling to other dimensions when we die because I admit I was having a bit of a death anxiety after that night. I usually have a panic attack or anxiety, but this was way different. Anyways, I started looking into theories about souls and consciousness and came across that one and how it lays within the parameters of infinite universes and small things in people's lives change after an accident, near-death experience, etc. I'm not convinced I died, but something weird definitely happened that night, and now I have a bright green dino making me question everything I know. Edit for clarification. I have not had COVID recently. I do not have any gas in my house. My water heater is gas, but it's outside in a closed area. and I have a CO2 detector in my apartment, so I think I'm solid regarding that. I don't take any medications or anything of that sort. Hiding in the cellar and away from him, I quickly whipped out my phone, but there was no signal, so I posted online for help. Almost immediately, someone gave me a comment alongside a helpful word that made my blood freeze, and before I knew it, I heard his footsteps approaching. I thought it was so cool when I discovered I had X-ray vision. Until I got in a traffic jam on the interstate and realized just how many cars around me had dead bodies or kidnapped victims in their trunks. Someone stopped me from being hit by a car, and it was myself. By Anonymous. I have never in my entire life experienced anything remotely like what just happened to me now. And also, I'm not crazy. I finished work at about 10:15 p.m., so it was pitch black, and cycled home. It's roughly a 25-minute cycle back home, and as I got into my little town, I was approaching the crossroad, in which I go straight ahead at, when I'm cycling home. Upon approach to the crossroads, the light is red, but I'm still a good 10 to 15 seconds away from it, so I continue at the speed I'm going. I see another cyclist coming towards me on the other side of the road from the direction I'm heading, and speeds over the crossroads. As he's approaching me, I see he's wearing the exact same high-vis helmet and jacket as me, as well as the same red backpack. By this point, the light had turned amber and then green, so I thanked my luck for not having to stop and keep going at the same speed I was going at. Just as I was on the approach to the green light, the other cyclist was right in front of me, but on the other side of the road, and passed me. As he passed me, he says, "Careful, mate." In my voice. My exact voice. And also, I'm not from this country I live in, so my accent is very unique. And it has the same tone of voice and everything. I stopped my bike and turned around. No traffic behind me as the roads are dead at this time of night. And he had vanished. There was no way he could have turned down a side road or made it so far he was out of sight. He mysteriously vanished. I turned back around and began cycling again, and all of a sudden a car sped across the road at around double the speed limit, running a red light. If I hadn't stopped to look at the mysterious person who looked and sounded exactly like me, I had been hit side on and likely died. I don't believe in anything supernatural, and I'm not religious, but this makes me question some things. I think if this person had just vanished after the warning, then I could answer it as a very unlikely event that someone who looks and sounds just like me had maybe seen the car approaching. But he vanished. I know for a fact that there is something waiting for us when we die. It's hungry, it's starving, it will consume us all, and it's getting closer. Something I still can't explain how it happened. By Amor Tendietto. I don't know exactly how to tell this experience, since English is not my first language, and it's a pretty odd thing that happened to me once. Don't know if it can be considered a glitch in the Matrix, but it's either that or something I cannot for the life of me explain. It's silly, really, but I can't find an explanation from today. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was watching a suspense movie with my mom. I remember it had Julianne Moore in it, and it had something to do with a guy with multiple personalities. It was cold and foggy winter day outside, so there wasn't anyone outside in the streets or anything. and it was a very quiet day in general, and there was a window by the side of the sofa my mom was laid on. I was in another sofa parallel to the one she was in. It was a pretty small living room, and since I also laid down, we were both facing the TV, but I was pretty much facing the window too. I only had to slightly turn my head to look outside. We had the neighbor's house on the other side of that window, but it was too far for anyone on their side of the fence to reach our house. And besides, there was no one home in their house that weekend. They had a dog, and they even took the dog with them wherever they traveled to. So the movie ended, and as the credits were rolling, we suddenly heard the window glass tremble a little bit, and a liquidy squirt sound, and when we looked to the window, there was a large wet spot of water running over the glass. It was exactly like someone had hit the window with a water gun. But immediately, my mom and I ran to the window, and there wasn't a soul out there. Also, from where I sat, I could see if there were someone outside without getting up, and there wasn't. The only place where it could have come from was from our neighbor's patio, but there wasn't anybody there. Our window was pretty high from the ground, and it was clear from the mark that the water had made on the glass that it had come from a straight angle. Not from above, not from below. It wasn't raining, there was no one in sight. It just came out of nowhere, and there wasn't even any sound of movement outside, because it was cold, and there was nobody on the street. That's pretty much it, really. It happened fast. It isn't anything too exciting, but from that day, my mom and I couldn't find any reasonable explanation to that happening. I mean, it could have been a bird or something that flew by and somehow peed on the window and managed not to collide against it. It sounds highly unlikely. I would have seen at least a shadow of something moving outside, since I immediately looked in its direction. I honestly don't know. Congratulations, Mr. Johnson. You've been accepted into the clinical trial and should have a new set of teeth in no time. Unfortunately, your insurance no longer covers extraction, and you'll either have to pay out of pocket or remove them yourself before any new teeth can grow in. Boyfriend and I almost got hit by a white car, except it wasn't white. By Ashlyn Leon. Yesterday, my boyfriend and I enjoyed a beautiful day, and we decided to take a walk up to the local Chamberlain Farms to grab some iced coffees. Nothing out of the ordinary, that was until we walked back home. I want to explain the layout of the area briefly so you can kind of understand. So there's our street, and at the end there's a blinking light, and then a pretty big corner on the left side, if you come out of our street. And then you're on a pretty busy main road, where the Chamberlain Farms is on. As we were walking back down the main street and around the corner to get onto our street, a white Mercedes-Benz car came flying behind us around that corner. I get it. The person was probably looking at a car ahead, etc. It's kind of a blind corner and cars do come around it fairly fast. What's crazy is that we didn't even hear it. Something inside me just said to turn around, and as I did, the person, who was a woman with dark hair and a red shirt on, was swerving to avoid us. My boyfriend and I both saw the car. We both saw the woman that was driving it. It was almost as if time had slowed down for just that brief moment. I said, "Holy shit, that car almost hit us." His reply was, "That white Benz?" brushing it off. We keep walking and talking, didn't really think much of it. We're about 800 yards from our house when a woman with dark hair and a red shirt on was bringing in her garbage can. You can tell she's most likely just getting back from work, still has her work badge on, and this was around 6 p.m. We live in a pretty small, friendly little community. The side her house is on is directly on the lake. We say hello, and she says, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to scare you guys back there. I didn't even see you. We said that it was okay and that it's definitely a blind area. And we all laugh it off. Boyfriend and I keep walking towards our home. Now this is the weird part. The houses that are on the lakeside have literally the smallest driveways. Basically, non-existent. Pretty much no lawns either, so no garage. Nowhere for a car to be pulled around. Nothing. This particular home, the woman's home with the red shirt, honestly gave off more of a suburban cabin kind of home, if that makes sense at all. Anyways, there are 2 cars in the little parking area of her home. A bright red, and I mean apple red, and an ugly green. More on the dark side. Both are colors that you don't really see. I'm not sure of the exact type of car that they were, but they were both the same besides the color. Ugly cars, I want to add. Definitely nowhere near a Benz look-like. Not even close. More like a Prius look-like. My boyfriend was the one that made the comment and said, "I thought it was a white Mercedes that almost hit us." I was so dumbfounded. I kept looking back, trying to justify what the fuck just happened. It was 1000% the same woman, but a totally different car? I mean, these cars' body shape were so beyond different that there's no way we would have possibly mixed it up. Not to mention the color, a bright apple red and a Mercedes white. I woke up in the morning still trying to rationalize the mix-up, and no matter how logical I try to be, I just can't. Play me a song on this and I'll release your soul. The Demon Promise, the blues musician. His screams as the razor-sharp guitar strings sliced deep into his fingers were the sweetest music the demon could ask for. Something weird happened around me. By Ivrakara Turapilla. Originally posted in some other sub, and someone recommended this sub to me. Need help. I don't really know how to put it correctly. It all feels very strange, and I'm seriously doubting my own consciousness. I'm an Indian working in KSA for the last 9 years and haven't been able to take a vacation for the last 4 years working continuously because of COVID and shit. And when I reached India last week, after a long journey, called my friends to meet at our local fast food joint. And we were talking about so many things, and I was trying to catch up with what was happening around locally. Then I proceeded to ask them about the new football turf I saw on the way and suggested we play there for some time. My friends agreed to that with a puzzled expression. I started to ask them about our local football club. Are they still using the orange jersey like they used to? Whom all still playing in the team? Which tournament we last played? They did answer all these questions, but at the end they asked me why I was asking about football. I laughed at them and said because we loved football, and I, along with another one of our friends, were the only local boys who used to play for the club when they were participating in big tournaments. And I reminded them how big the celebration for the 2010 Football World Cup had been in our village. They looked at each other and laughed at me and said I'd gone mad. I kept telling them about some tournaments and how I and a certain other player performances and some other specific instances. Their reactions were the same as before. According to them, I was never into football. I had never even been an average player. And some of the incidents I mentioned did really happen, but I was never part of it. Now I'm pissed and confused at the same time. I know I was a good player. I know I played for the club, and these fuckers keep telling me I wasn't. But there is another thing I know. I played for my college team. And there's this one guy from my place who was my senior in college. He must have known about me or at least seen me playing for the college team. So I asked my friend to call this guy and ask him about me and football. He answered the phone, and like my other friends, he said he had never seen me playing football, but I had something else to prove my point. Photos. I had uploaded some of my college team photos when we won a tournament. I proceeded to open my Facebook and scroll through the photos, scrolling down and down and down. There is no fucking photo. I clearly remember the photos with our Real Madrid jerseys, but it wasn't there. We decided to end this conversation there and left for home. I was confused but didn't talk to anyone about this. The next morning, I got a call from the courier service for my package I had sent from KSA. Now, I remembered something. I had sent my football shoes in that cargo. I used to play near the company camp with the same shoes. I received the package, took it home, opened it, and fuck, there's no football shoes in there. Now I'm seriously pissed and called my company people at KSA, and they say they have never seen me playing football. Called my college friends. They had never seen me playing football. Asked my family. Same. I'm pretty damn sure what I think about me is real. I know it's only been a week, but I think everyone around me has gone through some internal sunshine shit, and their minds got erased or something, or I'm in deep trouble and need help. Update number 1. Mother gave me a bunch of dress, which according to her I left here when I went back to KSA 4 years ago. Guess what? I have no recollection of owning that bunch. It somewhat fits me, given it's 4 years old. And as far as I remember, I used ready-made shirts. All of these shirts she gave me are tailor-made, which is very unlike me. Update 2. Went to the turf with my friends. There was a bunch of guys warming up to play. Some of them I knew before, had a little chat and joined them, and fucking killed the game. I was seriously doubting myself before, but not anymore. I know who I am. I know what I'm saying is true. The frustrating part is that my friends who were with me saying that I must have been playing with some Saudi guys for the past 4 years. They still don't believe me. Update 3. Lots of people recommend me consulting a doctor, which reminded me of one incident that happened while I was on the college team. It was a training session and I fell down while controlling the ball, and the guy next to me tried to clear the ball, but he missed it and kicked me in the ribs. I shrugged it off and kept playing. After the session, we were changing to leave and I felt a pain in my rib and I called my trainer. He called an ambulance and I got admitted to the hospital. And they were doing some tests. Don't remember the name, but they had the clip thing to attach to my finger. I was fine, but they wanted me to be observed for 24 hours. I remember my father and uncle being there, and after I informed them, I remember my college friends being there on the next day. Let's see if anyone remembers this. Update 4. As expected, no one remembers nothing. Went to the hospital to check the records. No records. Update 5. Met my ? Trainer. Asked him about the incident, even though he confirmed the incident really happened, but a couple of things I got wrong according to him. 1. It wasn't an ambulance, but his own car. 2. The guy who got injured wasn't me, but some other kid. I was never part of the team. The deal was simple. Spend 90 days off the grid at an idyllic mountain estate and receive $10 million. But when I realized that my only connection to the outside world was a live stream of my family being tortured, the serene isolation dissolved into madness. Strange, funny synchronicity. Birds of a feather flock together instant. 4 strange different things happening within 30-minute span time. By Sisman M7. In my life, I've noticed synchronicities, and stuff where it appears birds of a feather are flocking together. Meaning, a lot of people doing the same thing or from the same background, etc., are all around me at once, and seem more than a coincidence. I am like, what are the odds of that? About a few weeks ago, some strange stuff happened at a convenience store that has money transferring agencies that I use sometimes to send money back to my home country, where I have friends and family. After this incident, I'm definitely not going back there. I was getting 120 from the ATM machine because I wanted to send 100 at that location back to my homeland. I now live in the US. As I was getting my card out and the ATM paying out the money, I suddenly loudly hear a friend of mine yell my name out loud. And he hasn't seen me for years, so he wasn't expecting to see me. I turned around briefly to the right to look at him and greet him and step away from the ATM about 2 feet. And by the time I was done greeting him, I checked my pocket and noticed I didn't have the 120. I turned around and the guy is at the ATM with his Wells Fargo card out, and he asking me, "How do I get my money out of the savings? Please assist me." The guy is also from my home country, by the way. This is a store that is usually pretty much all people from my home country. I then told him to tap on savings. I also noticed the cash is no longer the place that it dispenses to, so I suspect he took it. And then he quickly, in a fast tone, asked me, "What's next? Where do I tap next?" I get the impression that this guy is a criminal and trying to draw attention from himself by making himself appear as if he's just arrived at the ATM and is innocent. He said he is trying to withdraw $20. I suspect he was acting that way to try and cover up the fact that he just took my 120. I asked him to please just start giving me my 120 as he is under a camera. I thought he was at the time, but the store didn't have any cameras facing there. He had around $80 in his hand and he gave it to me, and suddenly all the other people are causing commotion and ruining my focus, including that original friend of mine that was the cause of me forgetting to grab my 120. He was saying, "Just leave the elder alone," because that criminal guy was older and had gray hair from my country. Usually in my home country that is Islamic, elders are respected and most will try and get me to leave him alone even if he did something wrong, like steal something, because the elders normally don't steal and deceive. This is where the glitch part starts happening. I suspect he himself is a little mentally ill for being an elder with gray hair and stealing my money like that. And then another woman that I suspect is mental starts yelling at me. "Why don't you leave the elder alone? You got a fat stomach, man. You can work for that money that you lost, which I don't think the elder took." She said that in our language, that isn't English, by the way. I laughed, and she drew my attention away from the fact that I was about to get my remaining $40 from the guy. And to make matters worse, he tells her that he withdrew only 20 from the machine and the 80 I took from him had his 20 in there. So she takes one of the 20s from my hand and gives it to him. I'm like, is she normal or crazy? Then the owner of the store himself that I sent money from countless times starts telling me that it isn't the elder who did it, and I never even came in with 120, nor got 120 from the ATM in the first place. And I keep telling him I just got 80 back from the guy, and that crazy woman just gave him back 20 out of my own hand. While everyone was doing the commotion and all talking at the same time instead of letting me talk to him straight and nicely. The guy even said, "Search me if you like," but I informed him that it's Ramadan and that I don't search elderly like that. If you know you took it, just give it back, otherwise the sin is on you. And then the owner of the store, who is also the one I usually send my money transfers, came out from the back counter and started holding my hand hard, with a hard grip, and started shaking my hand up and down hard and dancing as if I'm someone that is fine with his silly, stupid play like that. But that further confirmed my suspicion that he is mentally ill too, because he also said, "Just let Allah deal with it," or something to that liking. "He will get his karma," or maybe Allah intended this to be a sakha charity for him. And I replied, "How can this be a charity when it is theft?" And then I asked him if he could trespass him, and he said no, that he's one of my regular customers. Then I replied, "Fine, I'll file a police report." The ATM has cameras, but the store didn't have cameras pointing there. I believe the guy saw the money sitting on the ATM dispense area that I am supposed to grab it from, while my attention was away to my buddy. I hadn't seen it in a very long time, and the guy hurried up in there and quickly grabbed it and started acting like he was withdrawing $20 and he had helped to withdraw it, when he knew exactly how to withdraw, but was trying to do cover-up and pretend like he was innocent old guy who doesn't know how to withdraw. So the glitch is that I was suddenly surrounded by a flash of mental illness from the universe, lol, a lot of people all mentally ill at once, and then I just figured I'll do a police report when I get home. The glitch didn't end there though. Just as I was about to exit the store, another buddy of mine was about to come in, and he gave me exactly 120 to have me list his towing company that he opened into Google Business listings for him. I never even told him about what just happened inside, but he somehow chose to give me 120 for the quick task. He owns restaurants and is wealthy, and I 100% believe he randomly entered the store and had zero knowledge about the $120 theft that just occurred to me. It took me about 15 minutes to do his task of listing his new towing company in Google, and that 120 for 15 minutes was a very good money for me, so it was like God or the universe gave me $120 for the $120 mess that I encountered with all those 3 mentally ill people, including the store owner. I was like, I am never going back there again. Just want to add at the end here that the OP did file a police report and never even talked to his friend about the 120 at all, so it was very random. I also want to apologize if I mispronounced any of those foreign words. I really tried my best. Mark went downstairs to the basement to get some milk. He came back upstairs, leaving the girl screaming, begging for death. I live on a farm and always thought it was funny how when a goat screams it sounds like a person. It's a lot less funny when you have 50 of them crowding around your house, all screaming your name. Junk Drawer Purse Glitch by Eyebrows Wear. I have this kind of purse that is very much like a junk drawer. Need a screwdriver? It's in my purse. Gum? Purse. Pencils? Purse. The original 2004 Shrek 2 DVD? Purse. Last week I was cleaning out my purse and came across a broken pair of aviator glasses with only one lens. Specifically, the left lens was missing. I don't remember ever owning this pair of sunglasses, but figured maybe my mom or someone riding in my car may have dropped them in my purse or something. I want to make it clear that these are not my sunglasses. I would never even buy aviator sunglasses because they're not right for my face shape. I have no idea where they came from. I grabbed them and was about to throw them out, but when I picked them up, I paused for a minute. And for some reason, the thought occurred to me that I should save them because I could need them at some point. This is an odd thought for me to have because I'm not a hoarder and I don't normally keep broken items. So, for whatever reason, I decided to keep them and go about my business. Fast forward to Saturday night. I show up to a party at my brother's apartment, and a lot of his frat male friends from college are there. I've only met 1 or 2 of these people, maybe a handful of times. So the night goes on, everyone's drinking, smoking, having a good time. Eventually I end up standing around a table doing shots with my brother and some of his aforementioned frat boys. One of them yells over to the guy standing next to me. He says, "Hey Tommy, Snapchat just reminded me that this was 4 years ago today. I can't believe it." He turns his phone towards me and Tommy, and it's a picture of a few of the people in the room, including Tommy. It's a picture from a party they had apparently had in freshman year of college. In this picture, everyone's sitting on a couch and Tommy is laying across everyone's lap. I look closer and see that Tommy is wearing a pair of broken aviator sunglasses with the left lens missing. What the fuck? After seeing this, I say to everyone at the table, "You guys aren't going to fucking believe this. I then proceed to reach into my bag and pull out the broken aviator sunglasses and wordlessly hand them to Tommy. He is confused, to say the least. The table erupts into a cacophony of ohs and what the fuck and oh shits. I am bombarded with questions. Where did I get these sunglasses? Why are they in my purse? Are they the same sunglasses from the picture? I have no answers to these questions. They decide to recreate the picture, and Tommy ends up keeping the sunglasses as a memento. I'm sure as hell have no use for them. We look at the pictures, and they appear to be the exact same color and the exact same shape as the original ones, so how did this happen? I have no idea. Why were the party glasses randomly bestowed upon me? Who knows? Just felt like sharing this mind fuck of a story. As I opened the door to my winter cabin, I knew something was off. The handle was warm. Screwdriver disappears and reappears by Eris Queen 16. I have been dying to post a story since it happened, but I had to wait to hit the karma requirement. I'm super excited to hear people's opinion on this. So, for context, at the time that the story occurred, I lived in a dorm at my college. I had one roommate and our door was always kept locked. On my desk, I had a jewelry holder that had a tray separated to 6 or so compartments. I kept a bunch of random stuff in it, but the object in question is a miniature screwdriver meant to tighten/loosen the screws that secure a bracelet I wear. I rarely use this screwdriver. The bracelet is a pain in the ass to take off, but the tray was positioned by my bed in a way that the screwdriver was in the direct line of vision when I laid on my head on my side. I had direct eye contact with it every night. One day I was getting ready to go to dinner with my roommate, but I noticed that the screw on my bracelet was starting to come loose. I went to grab my little screwdriver to tighten it, only to see it wasn't in its spot. This weirded me out because I had remembered seeing it the night before, but I figured I must have shuffled the tray or something. In hindsight, this really wouldn't have been possible because the tray was separated by sections. I looked through the tray and it was nowhere to be found. I started getting kind of freaked out because I hate losing things, and there was no way that I had moved it since I last saw it. At this point, I asked my roommate to help me look because I figured I was blind or something. She couldn't find it either. We then dumped the tray onto the floor and shuffled through everything just in case both of us had somehow missed it. I looked 3 to 4 times through the pile. I felt defeated and put the stuff back into the tray. I was standing by the tray, took one last look, and didn't see it. And my roommate walked out of the room first. I followed behind her and she locked the door. In other words, she had the only other copy of our room key in her possession. I wore my key on a different bracelet, so I knew I had mine on me too. A couple hours later, we returned to the room. She unlocked the door and I walked over to my jewelry tray again. And lo and behold, the screwdriver is sitting in the exact spot it has always been, tucked in a little corner like I hadn't dumped the tray onto the ground a few hours earlier. I picked it up and my roommate and I both started freaking out. We had both checked multiple times and there was absolutely zero chance we had just missed it. It has been a few years since this happened and I still think about it. When I see my old roommate, we still talk about it. I just don't understand how it disappeared and reappeared in the same spot that it had been in. Further, No one, including my roommate, even knew about this screwdriver because it had no purpose except for tightening the screws on this specific bracelet I would wear. Sorry that this post was so long. I wanted to be as detailed as possible. My family decided to throw me into an active volcano after discovering that I was immortal, and I spent the next millennia in constant agony while trying to escape. I eventually reached the tip of the volcano, only to discover that I now lay at the bottom of an ocean and would have to crawl along until I finally reached dry land. Claw clip randomly spawns in by Playboy Vans. Every time there's a post on the sub, I tend to rationalize it as much as I can because some things are explainable. However, the other night I was freaked out. For background info, I have a clear backpack because of gun threats in my area, so this is how our school takes precaution. There's a claw clip I wear everywhere. It's my favorite one, and I always put it in 4 places if I'm not wearing it. My purse, my front backpack pocket, my nightstand, or my downstairs bathroom. The other day after school, Friday, I took it off and put it in the front pocket of my backpack. And I know this for a fact because I had taken a picture of my claw clip and sent it to my boyfriend and mentioned how one of the pieces had broken. I came home that Friday and, like usual, it was only me. Fast forward to Saturday morning, I was getting ready to go to work and I couldn't find it for the life of me. It had basically disappeared. I checked my backpack and emptied it completely out to where nothing was in it and couldn't find my clip. Left it and just decided I'd look for it later, maybe didn't leave it where I thought I did. Came back home that night after work again, and it was only me that had been going in and out of the house in probably 2 days since my mom and brother are both away. I got ready for bed, got a quick snack, and used my phone's flashlight to guide me. As I exited my kitchen through my dining room, my phone shines off something. I go to look at it, and there it is, my claw clip. And it's the only thing sitting in my backpack. Again, my backpack is clear and small, so it's hard to miss. I would have noticed it, especially in broad daylight. Needless to say, I was freaking out because I had checked thoroughly and it wasn't there. Then it was. I even asked my mom or brother if they had came home and didn't tell me, even checked the house cameras. Nobody had been in the house besides me. Super weird. Disclaimer. I understand a claw clip going missing isn't a huge deal, but it's the fact that I completely ransacked my backpack and saw nothing was in it, and then it magically appears. Nobody had placed it there, and I never saw it there when I checked. Day 27? I thought this island was deserted, but I've been tracking a particular set of footprints for the past couple of days, hoping to find the source or some food. Day 32? If you find this journal, please get back to your boat or plane and save yourself, because they're not friendly, and they are definitely not human. Cup materializes in a different room by Colin on Reddit. I hadn't heard of the term glitch or read any user stories when this occurred, but since then have listened to and read lots on YouTube and Reddit, so decided to share my own. This was so simple and mundane, but proves that these glitches are real, and believe anyone who says they have experienced them. This was around the springtime of 2019. I made a note of it. I sat in the living room on a Friday evening watching TV. My then teenage daughters had just gone to bed, as had my partner, who asked if I would bring a cup of tea up in the adverts or when the TV program finished, and I also retired. I went to the kitchen, boiled the kettle, made a cup of tea, then came back into the living room and put the cup of tea on the table next to me, intending to take it up to her after I watched the current bit of the program. At some point, I must have dozed off into a fairly light sleep, as sometimes happens on a Friday evening after a week of work. Suddenly I was woken by a loud thud noise. I jolted awake and opened my eyes. In front of me, about 2 meters away and slightly off center of the middle of the room, was a cup. It was an empty cup, not one of the regular cups we have, but my partner's specially slightly larger cup she sometimes uses for different types of tea. It was bone dry, no liquid in it. The other cup of tea I had made was still next to me, with the tea, now slightly cooler, still in it. I had not brought this other cup into the living room and put it onto anything such as the sofa, where it could have fallen off and make the noise. So basically this cup, which was kept in a cabinet in the kitchen next door, had jumped or materialized from the kitchen cupboard to this room and fallen to the floor, waking me up. From the noise of the thud, I gathered it had fallen from at least a handheld height, as if someone had carried it and let go of it. And no, it was impossible for my partner or the kids to have done this to play a prank, because the room door was shut and it would be impossible to do this because of the layout of the room. Also, I checked shortly afterwards and they were all in bed, asleep. I took stock for a moment and deliberately took notes of where I sat and where the cup was and the other things in the room, so I would not be confused and would remember how things were laid out in the room. Then I got up, put the cup back in the cupboard in the kitchen, made a fresh cup of tea, and went to bed. Nothing like this has happened before or since. I do not know what or if it actually meant anything in terms of the universe, i.g. assigned to take the cup of tea up to my partner instead of watching the TV, or if it was just a glitch in how the universe works. Even though it's so simple, just an object jumping from one room to another, I am thankful to the universe in a way for letting me experience a true, verifiable glitch. The only thing I'm disappointed about is that I was not awake to see how the cup actually appeared when it did. I've always thought that there was more to the universe/existence than we think, and always believed in the supernatural, although never had any explanation or proof for it. I think what people term as the supernatural could in fact be examples of or related to glitches like this that we notice. We know what is true nature and mean of reality is, but these glitches suggest that there is more to it than we understand. A group of scientists had recently discovered a piece of technology to see what the deceased see after death. After what they saw, they quickly began working on finding a way to become immortal. Intense DOP in my house for years, by Oates. The first case was the most impactful. My wife and I had a black velvet box which contained her mother's $10,000 wedding ring, identical wedding band, and a jade ring I had bought her on vacation. This box had a very special place, and it was never put anywhere else. It sat inside of the back corner of our nightstand for a very long time. We always made it a point to put it back there. We don't own anything more valuable. One day we went to see it. Not there. we turned this house upside down searching. Many tearful hours of frustration and sadness and anger, and nothing brought it back. Fast forward to the middle of last year. She has another black velvet bag with an 18-karat gold opal ring that I had custom made for her. There was a pink opal engagement ring. This is well after we had accepted her mother's engagement ring was gone. And a few others. It was packed in a little travel bag because we were taking a trip to Texas for a few days. We got back from our trip and unpacked. Haven't thought about the jewelry. A few days later, she can't find them, so we start searching. Praying it's not like last time. We cannot find the velvet bag anywhere. She goes through the travel bag literally 5 times, checking all compartments, literally turning the bag inside out, and we lost hope of ever seeing them again. Fast forward to this previous week. We were taking an overnight trip out of town and stayed in a little house. While we are at the house, we find a strange pendant necklace with a copper-wrapped moon-shaped stone and a black point crystal. We take it home with us. The night we get home, I set our vape pen down on the couch side table and it falls off the table. I'm on my way to grab something and just plan to grab the pen when I get back. I do my thing, and when I get back, it's gone. I watched it fall between my house slippers, and it was not near or around them at all. We have this reoccurring angst when something disappears because of how much we have suffered from it. When we are looking, SO goes to look in our travel bag. She pulls the clothes out to see the fucking velvet bag. It is sitting right beside our new necklace. Needless to say, she literally fell to the ground and started sobbing. I was fucking yee-hawing. We had put all of her jewelry in a wood box that we had put protective intentions into. Sadly, the black velvet box was still gone. But we are so happy to have some of her special jewelry back. I have 3 staple rings I always wear. A frog, a moon, and a ring with 2 naked people kissing. The kissing people is my wedding ring. I went to bed wearing it, and I woke up without it. I'm blown away, obviously searching everywhere, and to no avail. The last one happened in the past 12 hours and makes 0 sense. I have 2 $10 bills, 1 $5, and 3 $1 in my new wallet I purchased on our day trip. Last night, SO flipped through my new wallet and counted this cash. I keep a little cash always. I always use my card and reserve cash for places that possibly don't take card. This wallet has either been in my pocket or bedside table. I have not used cash. My day was home, work, home. I saw a single on the door of my car and decided to put it in with my cash. The only cash in my wallet was the 3 $1 bills. I don't know what to make of this. We are both sure we didn't use or take the cash out. But the idea that something is taking random jewelry and petty cash from my wallet is terrifying. We are both intensely confused. I yelled out to whatever could possibly be doing this to us and said, "Give us our shit back." I don't know what to do. I guess we just want to relate to others. I know people have DOP with objects, but I never heard of anything taking cash. I had hidden into my daughter's room and stood in horror as I saw her bed empty and her window open. That moron was supposed to take her and kill her when my ex-husband had her. And with that, we're near the end of this video. I do hope you enjoyed all these Glitch in the Matrix stories and all the narrators who helped me bring these stories to life. I also like to thank the users who let me read their stories. Thank you guys as always. Now if you like this video, hit that like button and make sure it feels it. If you're new, subscribe and turn that pretty little bell to all notifications. If you like to help this channel and podcast grow, share it with anyone who might enjoy it. You'd be surprised how much that actually helps. If you like to help in other ways, I do have a Patreon, merch, and PayPal. And I'd like to thank my patrons again for all their support. Thank you guys as always. And I would love a comment as always. But this time there's no Sunday word. We'll be doing that next week. But as always guys, thank you for watching and listening. It really means the world to me. Sleep tight and don't let 42 bite.